Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Deckin Around. My name's Tyler,
I'm Steve.
and today we are so excited to have Scott Dyer on the show. If you don't know Scott, Scott is an amazing card stacker and card artist. You may have seen some of Scott's kirigami work, which he sells through Art of Play. You may have seen some of his card scratches or even his card towers, which are absolutely spectacular pieces of structural, design. One of the coolest things I think with Scott's work has always just been the artistic thought that goes into it and really the unique kind of aspects of everything we've seen with it. So I know you're excited about this one, Steve. I know I'm excited. Should be a good
I am.
episode, man.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, but I haven't even been able to build a COD one level house. Never mind seeing what he does is just ridiculous.
Dude, yeah, I remember it's funny too, because like I remember being a kid, always being fascinated with card houses and trying to build them. And then watching like Scott's videos and other videos of building these houses, I'm like, all right, well, mistake number one, using this triangle structure to build a card house. It seems like nobody does that if they're looking for any sort of like structural integrity. And it's
Yeah.
always something that kind of like blew my mind. But I'm really excited to sit down tonight and talk to Scott about not only card stacking, but how we got into it and kind of life in general, man.
Yeah, and how we figured out to build a 20-foot high COD stack.
I mean, yeah, that's legit. That's
Crazy.
that's really intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we jump into it, guys, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And we're going to take a quick word from our sponsor here. Exciting things coming this year from marvelousdecks.com. Make sure to keep an eye out, guys.
Dude, now nobody can make fun of my voice.
I mean, we can I'm sure Shima will forever live on. For anyone who wants to create a Deckin Around meme with Steve saying Shima, go for it. But without further ado, everyone, we are really excited to bring Scott Dyer on the show. What up, Scott?
Yeah, Scott.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Dude, absolutely our pleasure, man. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm great. Yeah, it's been looking forward to this all week. Getting to talk to you a little bit about my stuff and just whatever you guys want to talk about. So
Heck yeah.
I have to say, after posting the reel yesterday with the video, the responses were all like, "Look at that beard," and I'm like, "I know the beard is epic, guys, but we're here to talk about card stacking, so let's focus a little." But
yeah,
people were loving it, man.
Well,
when you first posted those pictures of like the promo picture from, I guess you pulled off my Instagram or something from some projects I did, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago. And even me, I saw him. I was like, man, look at my little baby face, man. It's been a long time since I've had that.
That's funny. We usually Tyler's like the beard man on the show,
I know.
And he was a little not bummed out, but
No, I'm excited by it. I'm excited by it.
It's the corn beard.
Exactly. Exactly. I actually had someone say to me, they're like, "How long do you think it would take to grow a beard like that?" And I was like, "You're probably looking at least 16 months. Like, it's an endeavor for sure." And that was actually Ido Huang asked how long, because he's been on a kick right now where he's like, "Oh, I'm going to try and grow my hair out." And I'm like, "Do it, dude, but it's going to take you a while." And he's like, "I wish I could grow a beard," but I can't. And I was like, "You're better off, man. Shaving sucks. Like, don't worry about it." So,
yeah. Man. Yeah, I looked forward to the days when it's funny, right before everything shut down last year, I had just gone clean shaven for the first time in 3 years. So it was really weird because I was like barefaced and I was like, oh, I don't know if I really like what my face looks like. And then it was perfect timing. I was like, all right, well, I'll just let it grow back. And this is the longest it's definitely ever been. I usually keep it pretty trimmed, but and yeah, I used to have long hair back in high school when I had hair. And that was
Nice.
a long time ago now. But they used to be long, and then I don't miss that at all either. It's so much easier to keep it short.
Oh my God. Yeah. I used to shave my head for a long time too. And I finally like grew it out, and it's a hassle. It's absolutely a hassle. So, but you know what though? A beard isn't that much less work, I've come to realize. Like, you still have to maintain it. Otherwise, it just like, I mean, right now I haven't trimmed the sides of mine down in a while. It's starting to look scraggly, but like, there's a process to it. Like, you can't just be like, "Oh, I have hair on my face, we're good." Like, no.
Yeah, I've watched. I mean, mine's definitely not as kempt as it could be, because like wearing a mask with a beard is also like a pain. Like it
Yeah.
just ruins any effort you put into styling it or like keeping it clean. Just gets immediately ruined when you put on a mask. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like I just don't care that much. But
Does it
definitely
push
I've watched a bunch of
does it push it
YouTube
in?
videos. Yeah,
So-
I mean it pushes it in. You get like this line across it,
Yeah.
wherever like the mask like puts pressure on it, and
It's like
it's just
mask beard.
I was explaining
Yeah.
that to someone the other day, and they're like, "It looks fine." I'm like, "But I can tell, and it's driving me nuts because there's this like weird, just like dent in the hair
Yeah.
there, and there's no way to really like get it out once it's in there unless you like really like get it wet and like get it to like go back to its natural state. It's crazy."
Yeah.
Jackson said there's way too many beards.
What's up, Jackson? See, you didn't even ask what this mess is because you just knew it's the Bearded Mess Festival here. So
The bearded mess fest. That's great. I
Oh my
feel like
God.
I'm in Squamish and I'm getting ready to watch the lumberjack, like
There you go,
the lumberjack
man.
sports show or something.
I mean, listen, you want to see it like a beard convention, you have to go to one of those like Scottish like festivals where they do all like the timber tossing and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
Like,
what they do that in Squamish too.
Do they?
They have like their mustaches all waxed out and everything, and
I got that shut down real quick. I was growing mine a little bit with the curl on it, and I was like, I got told I had to trim it. So,
Right, that's right.
oh my God.
Gotta listen to the girlfriends, you know.
Without a doubt. But so now that we're about 5 minutes into this and we haven't even really touched much on anything other than beards, Scott, how's quarantine been treating you, man?
well, you know, it's like probably for most people, it's had its ups and downs and stuff, but for the most part, you know, working from home has been fine. It has not. I haven't had the creative spark that I wished I would have, being at home and things, because I am still being good about working and everything. And also not to mention that a lot of my materials that I usually use are like still, I mean, I probably shouldn't be keeping them in my office at work, but I do. I keep them like beside my desk, because like a lot of times after I'm done with work for the day, I'll just sit there at my desk before I come home while I'm still in like the work mindset, and that's why I kind of like work on something. So I keep my stuff at work, and like when things shut down, I just didn't get any advance warning. So, you know, my stuff's just kind of been trapped in the office for months and months. And I did get in one time and grab some stuff, but I mean, most of my card stacking cards and most of my other decks that I use for just, you know, different color choices or things are all trapped in there. So hopefully eventually I'll get in there to get those back. But, you know, I've got plenty of stuff to work on here at home. And in general, it's just been kind of, you know, do what I can. I went back to New Jersey, where I'm from. I live in LA, and I went back to New Jersey for a few months toward the end of last year to see some family that I hadn't seen in like 2 years. So that was really refreshing and rejuvenating, because being able to work from there, but also finally be seeing family. I mean, I will have an opportunity like that again. So go look at the positives that come with the ability to work from home. So
yeah,
and unfortunately, you're in New Jersey. That's probably the downside.
I was just about to say the exact opposite. I was like, at least New Jersey had less cases than California at the time, so you were probably safer. Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
when I was coming back at the end of last year, it was definitely, I mean, the epicenter of the world, and it was like, oh man, I got to go back into the hornet's nest. I was kind of really nervous about it, but I had to do it, and I got back, and you know, things have been good for the past couple of weeks and all that. So,
well, and it's interesting too to see, and it was funny because like when it first started, it and like landed in California, you can always tell how things are going to progress. They always go coast to coast, then south, then kind of like Midwest, and obviously this time it went, you know, west to east and then south and Midwest instead of east to west. But it always comes in on a coast, and I think it's just because you have these large hubs of people always coming in and things kicking off there. But yeah, it's crazy. But you know what? Like you said, you got a good opportunity to see some family, hang out, maybe even step back from the creative side and see how things are. I mean, right now, like you said, you're kind of, I don't want to say you're jonesing for it, but you miss the creative side of things. So it kind of gives you that appreciation.
For people who follow me on Instagram, like I've been really quiet. I haven't really been putting out much for the past like couple of years. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I certainly still have this passion for card art, and I have a million ideas. I have a bunch of things I've been working on. I just haven't really seen them through to completion. So I guess, just hopefully expect that there will be that little snap back to creative surge, and new things will start coming out. I've posted a few things recently, but I do have a million ideas I'm tinkering with. I just haven't gotten them to that last little bit that makes them the way I feel they're ready to be shared. So,
well, I mean, now you just gotta, move forward. You're getting closer and closer, and
yeah.
It's a new year and new
Well,
inspiration.
certainly doing this has been, inspiring. I was like, oh no, like now I'm going into the public eye again. I have to produce some content, and definitely I've been working on some things this week, and hopefully I'll be getting some stuff up real soon for people to react to. And I just like I just love playing cards in general, just in any way I can use them. And there's been so many great new artists that I've discovered in the past few months on Instagram. It's always cool seeing like ways that people are just taking things I've seen before and just putting a new twist on them, or like, the big thing I've seen recently is all the layered deck cuts, with the, and, I remember seeing those years and years ago when I first joined Instagram, and they were like super cool to me and gave me a whole bunch of ideas. And there's ideas with that I've been thinking about for a while and haven't really made. And I want to do something that's like in the same vein, but different. It's like my little take on it. That seeing all the new stuff from other people is also really, inspiring.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. I mean, especially, obviously with your kirigamis, it's in the same kind of space as, deck cuts and stuff like that. So it's really cool when you do have something that you're involved in and someone creates something that's kind of in the same world but different. That's again another way to spark some inspiration and move forward with other ideas. I think it's fascinating. I literally look at deck cuts and I look at your kirigamis. I have a couple back here, and I'm like, how are we past 10 minutes? How the fuck how on earth? Like,
I'm gonna have like a little like buzzer in the back from now on where it just like dings once we're past 10 minutes, so you know.
Hey, I haven't asked that in a while. That's
no, you've been pretty good. We've kind of most of the time now when we realize we're like 50 minutes into it, so it was good. But and Scott, like you said, you obviously have a passion for playing cards here. Clearly, you have playing cards behind you. You've built massive playing card structures. But for those who might be watching who don't really know your background with cards or your background in general, why don't you tell us a little bit about what got you into playing cards and what you do with playing cards?
Sure. Yeah. So first, most of my life, I would consider myself a card stacker first and foremost. It's only really recently that I started getting into other kinds of playing card art, using playing cards for other creative medium, or as a medium for other creative outlets. And card stacking, for those who don't know, is like it's stacking cards, physically stacking cards into large three-dimensional structures. So think about building a card house. As a kid, I used to do it from, as early as I can remember, being able to have dexterity to do so. And I definitely used the triangles, Tyler. So don't worry. The triangles.
I feel like that's how everyone's like taught at first.
Yeah. I definitely use triangles. I used to build these like little toll booths and things for my Matchbox cars, or build little houses for like my stuffed animals, things like that. It was always a way to like occupy myself when I went to my grandparents' house, or just in the basement of my house. I always had like old decks of cards on hand, and I found it really fun. I just love creating stuff in general, but especially with playing cards. And I don't remember how old I was when I saw the show Ripley's Believe It or Not, hosted by Dean Cain, and there was a feature on there of Brian Berg, who anyone who knows card stacking knows Brian Berg is the godfather of card stacking. He basically invented the entire art form. He's amazing. He's the one who holds the world record, has held the world record continuously since 1992 when he first broke it. And I basically learned everything that I do from watching him, looking at his pictures, just trying to mimic things that I saw him do, and trying to go, how did he do that? Like trying to figure it out. So when I saw that, it was like a moment as a young kid. I was like, wait, you can take what I've been doing and make that. Like, it was so mind boggling to me. I just remember seeing like how massive these structures were and how not just the size of them, but the intricacy of the details that he put into it. Like there's many techniques, we call it like the fenestration, which is the arrangement of doors and windows on the building, or like the just the detail work, placing cards on the outside to create the illusion of like domes or stadiums or curved surfaces, things that like you wouldn't think that would be possible with playing cards, especially without tape or glue.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, my mind was just completely blown. And I was like, I need to do that. I need to learn how to do that. I'm going to figure this out. It just didn't even seem possible to me. There was no way that was like, there was no glue involved. And I remember just trying things, and I didn't have the right cards. I didn't have the right, like, I hadn't cracked the nut yet. That was the basics of card stacking, which is the cell technique, the squares that go away from the triangles.
Yeah.
And when I discovered one day, I was in the bookstore with my parents, and I think it was like a Barnes and Noble or something. And there was on the little discount pile, there was this book, and I saw Brian Berg's name and like picture that I'd seen in Ripley's Believe It or Not on the cover. And I was like, what is this? And like, I picked it up immediately and just went through the whole thing in the store. I was like, we need to buy this. Like, we need to buy this book. It's called Stacking the Deck. And I think to date, it's probably the only book that's ever been written on card stacking. And I recommend it to anybody who wants to go into it. It really does teach you the basics. I mean, many of the things in there are like just essential basics for how to, do different techniques and things. And there's a lot of great little projects that kind of build up in complexity throughout the book. So I got that book and I just built like everything in it. Like I needed more cards. So all I would ask for Christmas from my parents was just playing cards, and they had to be specific playing cards. I didn't want I didn't want nice, brand new, shiny, glossy playing cards. I wanted like the cheap dollar store decks that came in cellophane, like wrapped in cellophane and had really bad finish. So
Says nobody ever.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Like, I'm sure all the card people here are like, oh no, you need like all these finishes. The finish is everything. And then for me, it's like, I want the cheapest cards, first of all, because I need a ton of them. So I really don't want to be spending $5, $10, $15 a deck for premium cards. And I'm going to destroy them. They're going to bend. They're going to flex. I'm going to go through a bunch of them. So I don't want them to be expensive. And also, the cheaper they are, the easier it is to stack. It's no secret. You don't have the glossy finish. Definitely, you get a better coefficient of friction between a card on its edge and the surface below it. And so it's less likely to kind of kick out and things fall down. So it definitely makes a difference.
Maybe I could build a house now, like just one floor.
Just one floor. I think that's called a mobile home. Which, by the way, real quick, thank you so much, Jackson and C-Dub. We really do appreciate the support, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. But and that's really interesting, though. So now that actually raises another question for me. Talking about the coding, do you actually prefer like plastic cards versus standard paper cards due to rigidity, or is paper still the better route there?
Definitely.
Isn't plastic slippery?
Yeah,
okay.
I've tried. I mean, I've tried building with pretty much everything.
Okay.
Definitely, I prefer paper. Plastic is difficult usually because it's just, again, it's kind of slippery. If you're going to build with like bicycle cards or something like that, it's actually a great use for like the beat up poop decks from that you've overused and kind of have busted up the edges a little bit, because like those scuffing on the edges actually will help with that friction that you need to make it a little bit easier. I mean, it could certainly be done with a fresh deck of cards. Just if you're doing this on the scale that I'm doing it, it's much easier. I mean, if some people say it's like, well, that seems like you're cheating if you're using cards that, like, trust me, it still takes a ton of skill and patience and frustration. It doesn't make it like, it's not cheating. Trust me, you still couldn't be able to do it.
Cheating is like gluing.
And that's another thing too. People are like, do you ever glue it? I'm like, I try anything in my power not to glue it. I've definitely have had clients who wanted me to glue projects together for them, because for practical reasons. Like, for example, if we're doing a commercial, shooting a commercial, obviously they can't just, if they need to do another take, they can't say, okay, everyone clear set, let them rebuild for 4 hours, and then we'll take again. Like, for practical reasons, you need to have a prop card tower
Yeah.
But then for the money shot, when it actually falls down on camera, they actually need me to build it for real. So it's kind of a combination of like real and fake. And
Interesting.
that fake one, that prop one, takes 10 times longer to make than the actual card tower, because
sure.
gluing it
Yeah.
is insanely tedious, and
Yeah.
I hate gluing card towers together. I would do anything in my power not to do it. In fact, I pretty much have made a policy of like, I will never say yes to another like glue it together project again, because I just hate it so much. But yeah, everything I build is freestanding, except for those exceptions for like commercial work or things that need it.
I
have
a question about that.
Real quick too. Thank you so much, AJ. We do appreciate the support, man. Thank you.
Yes. Now when because isn't there like some friction stuff that magicians use, like roughen
3M adhesive spray.
Well, they use that too, but no, there's like a roughen stick stuff that I mean, you could use it.
Probably. I mean, yeah, I don't use that either.
I'm saying that might be like for those glue.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've tried a bunch of different stuff for gluing. Like, whether I've used anywhere from like hot glue, Elmer's glue, or depending on like how close they're going to be to the structure too with the camera lens. I mean, if they're going to be doing extreme close-ups,
it can't
has
have
to be invisible.
Peeling out. Yeah.
Has to be invisible. So, and that's actually funny. There's a project I did for. There was a show on CBS briefly for like one season called Vegas. It had Michael Chiklis and
Yes.
It was kind of like set in old Vegas, and Taylor Handley and some other people, and it was on for like a season. Right toward the end of the first season, they decided to actually shoot a real title sequence for it, and they called me in to build a bunch of like casino looking buildings out of cards.
That's dope.
And for part of that, they needed a glued thing because they were going to like shoot a bullet through it in like macro photography and just kind of like look really cool. It's funny because they end up canceling the show after the title sequence aired one time. So it was, it aired on TV once. You can still find it on YouTube somewhere, but they had me build this.
Yeah, I just found it. I will link to that down below in the comments. Yeah, I just found it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's my stuff's only in there like split seconds and things, and they had a hand model in there with like placing some of the cards like on the camera because my hands weren't sexy enough, and so, but they had me build this thing, and then it was in the soundstage downtown LA somewhere, and building all morning, and then finally they're like, okay, so it's time to shoot your stuff. Can you move it over here? And I'm like, seriously? Like, we talked about this, like, this is card house. Like, it's not like, it's still fragile. I mean, they're much more robust than people think, but certainly don't want to move it across the room. So we actually wheeled it across the room. I built it on a table with wheels. Wow. And I had like all the grips coming in and like holding this cable up above their head so that we could slide the table underneath. And we lost like 2 of the structures that I'd built, and they were just like, whatever, it's fine. Like, we'll just shoot the other stuff. And I mean, it ended up turning out fine, but it was just like, it's crazy. Cause like, that's the stuff I've learned too with clients. It's like, you really need to know exactly how they're going to use it, because there's like times like that where they just don't understand what they're dealing with. They don't get like that's, you hired me because you needed a real card house because you were going to knock it down. Like, I can't build it and just move it across the room. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Now, how does that make you feel right after you build something? Like, I saw a video of, was it CardstackCon that you did it? And Dan and Dave.
I when CardstackCon was in LA in like, was that 2017 or something? I think.
Yeah, somebody sent me the video today. Like, how does it make you feel? Like, right after you get done building something, someone's like,
"Oh, well, I remember CardstackCon. That was fun because, just being around so many cool, creative, like people who love playing cards was really exciting. I'd met a lot of those people virtually through Instagram, and then like to be able to meet them in person was really exciting. But then so knocking stuff down for me is like 100% part of the process. Like, I don't feel attached to, as long as everyone's had a chance to look at it, appreciate it, get some pictures. And then, I mean, knocking it down is like the fun part. That's what everyone wants to see. And
that's true.
It also proves to people that it's real, because, if it was glued together, it would not fall down the way that it falls down.
Yeah.
And, it also, again, sometimes will show people like, wow, that was way stronger than I thought. Like I thought if I just blew on it, it would fall over completely, but you were able to like throw things at it and take chunks of it out, and it didn't, all collapse at once.
Yeah, I saw people throwing cards
Yeah.
at it.
Cardstacker was funny because I think I had to remind Dan and Dave, like, because they have a million other things going on, and it was like the last day, and I was like, hey, like my card tower is still standing over there. Do you guys want to like knock it down? And they were like, oh yeah, like we got to do that. Like
That's all.
so.
Dude, the destruction, people are fascinated with destruction. Steve and I have talked about this in the past, and he didn't even realize like there's a whole YouTube channel dedicated to like things being crushed by like a pneumatic press.
Oh yeah.
And I'm saying,
I think a deck of cards. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the ones that always get me are like candles because they like shoot out the top and it's really cool looking. But like people love seeing the destructive aspect of all that stuff, and it makes perfect sense. So it's probably good that you're not as attached to these as you. I'm sure it's probably frustrating in the midst of it if things come apart at all. But once it's done and you're disconnected, you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, definitely every project is unique. It has its own challenges, whether it be environmental issues, like I didn't realize I was building directly underneath an air conditioning vent, or something like which I've done a couple times and worked around it in various ways. Or just like frustration where I'm trying to do a particular architectural feature, a column or something, and bridge a gap and create this illusion of a big span existing or something, and in my head I know how I want to achieve it, but sometimes the cards just aren't like laying the right way or behaving, and things fall down. Rarely, if probably never, have I ever had the entire thing collapse in the middle of building. It's like I'll lose the layer that I'm working on, or like the part that I'm working on, sometimes like a chunk, and I'll just have to like rebuild that. The main thing is like that I've learned is just stay like calm, like, because if I panic or get frustrated, then I'm just not doing myself any good, any favors. There's definitely been times where I've been building alone, not for a paid project, and I just get so frustrated that things aren't working right, and I'll just kick the whole thing over, and I just start again, whatever.
Really?
It's like, I'll already be up 5 feet in the air, like building something big, and then after I'm done, I'm like, why did I do that? I could have salvaged that.
Yeah.
And then I'm like mad at myself for then like rebuilding the whole thing. And I learn every time stuff like that happens. So, but knocking it down is definitely the most popular part. People do love destruction. It's definitely one of the most. I mean, I haven't posted a video to my YouTube channel in years, but I used to do these projects by myself just to explore different techniques and to see what I could do. And it's been more difficult because I tried to like get a life and not spend every weekend in a dark room by myself building card houses.
Probably a good thing for your mental health there to just get out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I do miss it
we
too.
all have
like,
been noticing.
it's harder. It's harder now. I got a dog and stuff, so it's like I always like I'm worried about him. I'm like, I gotta go. I can't just stay there. I literally used to stay there for like 20 hours straight and just build, and I'd lose track of time. I'd drink like a pot of coffee and my hands would be all jittery, and I'd be like, oh man, it's 2 a.m. I should probably go home and get some sleep. And then best sleep you ever get too, after a day of 20 hours of card stacking, you lay down in that bed and you're just like, oh yeah.
I can't even imagine. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
But the YouTube videos. Sorry, let me just finish.
Go ahead.
The YouTube videos. They're always popular. People just love to comment about how I should have destroyed it, or what I should have done, or blah blah blah. And they always give me ideas for like things I could do for the next one, because I like to try to do different stuff as I'm destroying it.
Yeah.
I've done I've run through them. I've kicked them down. I've used leaf blowers. I've thrown things at them. I've my 20.5-foot tower, I like clawed at, because I'd never built anything that big before, and I wanted to see like how strong is this thing, and I wanted to learn from it. I didn't want to just knock it all down in one crush. But people love that part, and I love that part too. It's fun. It's great if I can get it in slow motion, and just kind of like, also for me, I like to go and analyze the video afterward and go, I see like where the weak point was. I saw that's the card that finally gave.
That's cool.
And sometimes you can even see the weight because these things end up being, you know, many pounds of cards in the structure. And so like the cards down at the bottom are supporting everything above it, obviously. And there's some point where something gives. And in slow motion, a lot of times you can kind of see the failure point. And to me, that's really fascinating because you can kind of see the forces shifting, and eventually it just reaches a point where failure, and that's when it goes.
That's cool. We got to make sure that one of these days when we're around, we could knock over one of your towers.
So it's funny. Sure. I literally was just looking online to see if they make mini, like kid-size, functional, like wrecking balls. That would be like an interesting way to go about it one day. Just like rent a little like Power Wheels wrecking ball and just like take it down. But you were mentioning there's a lot of like strength to these structures. Have you built things that like could support your own weight and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, so that was another thing when I saw Ryan Berg on Ripley's Believe It or Not. They mentioned about how strong they are, and that like he's built his grid technique out into like a 4 foot by 4 foot grid and put a piece of plywood on top of it. And then had like a whole team of cheerleaders or something like stand on it, and it doesn't collapse. And you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to put that kind of weight on top of like a tower because it's just not designed to distribute the weight properly. But using that grid technique, that is the foundation of all the card stacking that we do. And I've done my own tests like this. I've stood on stuff that I've built. I've done demonstrations for some of the TV shows that I've been featured on, where you know, I build this small grid and then I can just stack like cinder blocks and cinder blocks and cinder blocks on top of it. And it's really part of the reason why that works is because in that grid, like, and what I'm talking about with the grid is like, everything's based on this like T structure. It's like a honeycomb that you build out. And when you put a roof on it with cards, and then you put like a piece of plywood on it, as long as you're very careful about going up on that plywood, that the forces are really being distributed out horizontally across this entire structure into through the wood. And so, and I think the number, it's been a long time since I've seen the number quoted from Brian. He's done like actual architectural stress tests in a lab, like one of those pneumatic crushers that you see on the YouTube videos, squishing things. And I think he said like you can support 650 pounds per square foot, I think.
Jeez.
of this grid if built well.
Wow.
I could be completely making that number up, but I know it's big. It's like way bigger than you would ever expect, which is why I know, or I think at least in my head, that you could build a card tower 50 feet tall, like, because you got to do the math about the weight and the logistics of actually building it. And
how many cards will that take?
A lot. I think that the 20-foot tower I built was mostly hollow. It just had kind of like a cross structure through the middle and then kind of a perimeter around it. You can see it in the video. There's a time lapse of me building it. You can really just see the footprint. And mine was 9 cards across horizontally. So about actually, this is 8. That's 8 cards across. But add one more card to that, and that's kind of the width of the tower. So it was. Oh, thanks, Alex. The card man just says 660 pounds per square foot. He confirmed it. So cool. Nice. Thanks. He's another card stacker I know, by the way, from New Jersey.
What's up, Alex? Wait, it's a Jersey club here tonight. That's awesome.
It's in your location. You should just get into it.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say it's like in my state-born DNA. It could be.
That's what I was getting at. But.
I'll figure it out. Now that I know that triangles are not the right route, I'll check it out a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, the tower I built, I think I said it used like, I can't remember the numbers. It's in the YouTube video. It was a bunch. It was like 700 decks, 750 decks. So if I do the math there, 750 times 50. I used to be able to do all these numbers in my head. Just 37,500 cards or 38,000 cards, let's say. And that's a guess. That's a guess.
How many decks have you gone through? That's what I want to know.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. So building all that stuff as a kid, my problem was always I never had enough cards. And having the right cards actually, it does make it easier and you can really focus on building rather than all the annoying things that go with bad cards, that aren't ideal for card stacking. So when I went to college, I found a catalog from the US Playing Card Company that had the decks that Brian used. They were called Play More Brand, PLA-MOR, and they were like wrapped in cellophane, and they were like $1 a deck or something. So I bought like, I think like 300 decks or 150 decks or something, which I thought was a ton. I built this Empire State Building in my dorm room underneath my bed. Like I lofted up my bed and I built this thing. My roommate hated me, by the way, because he was always like afraid he was going to knock it down. And then I was like, man, I need more decks. I need more decks. I need more decks. So when I moved to LA right after school and I finally got a job, and I was like, wow, you make money now. And like, I lived in this apartment for like really cheap when I first moved to LA. So I had money. I was like, what? I can buy cards. I can finally buy cards. So I at that point, US Playing Card Company wasn't making these things anymore. And actually Alex, the card man there, he clued me into this company he had found in like some wholesaler in Texas that still had these cards. And I called them up and I asked if they actually had them. I had the woman go and verify that they were like the brand that I was actually thinking. And she said, yeah. And I said, how many do you have? And I bought 5,000 decks of cards. So they arrived on a pallet to my office.
That is rad.
That is awesome.
And I got them at like super, super cheap because I bought so many. I was like, so I talked her down. I was like, can I get them for like, I don't know, it was like 50 cents a deck or 60 cents a deck or something. So it was a significant chunk of cards, but it was, for what I got, is awesome. And I still have a whole bunch of those cards from 10 years ago, unopened in boxes.
Oh, wow.
But I've gone through probably half of them at least, where they're unusable again, because they've just been put under such stresses in these large projects and they get bent and stressed and all that stuff. So I'm in the hunt right now because this is a serious problem for card stackers, and there's not many of us, but for those of us that there are, we're like, we don't have a supply of good card stacking cards anymore. So I'm taking it upon myself to kind of reach out to some people I know and find out like what their crappiest stocks and finishes are, and maybe get a huge run of actual card stacking cards made for people. So
dude, Ivory Press is pretty bad.
Yeah, well, I don't want to like say this on the air, but I'm sure we can find some places that are pretty bad. I mean, I definitely have tried buying like the really cheap cards off like Amazon from like China, and they're so bad that they're not even good for card stacking, just because they're not even cut square and stuff like that. So I mean, you do need cards that are made well. You just don't want them made so well that they're great for handling. Like you don't want good handling cards, but you want them to be cut well, printed well, all that stuff. So it's kind of like a weird set of requirements for like a playing card company to be like, hey, I actually want your crappiest stock and your crappiest finish.
What's your budget deck? Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I was going to say, who a great person to talk to about that would be Jaspers. He plays with so many different stocks and plays with so many different printers for each of his decks, because he basically operates under the idea that he doesn't tell you who the printer is. And for certain decks, every couple decks he changes to a new printer with a new stock and a new finish so that people can get a lot of feel for it. But I'm sure he's played with a lot of different stocks looking for good handling ones. He might be someone who could tell you all the bad ones.
Real quick. Yeah, definitely. I need to use my connect, like this great community of people who know a lot more than me about playing cards. For their purposes, and it's the things that they might be like have already dismissed might be exactly the thing that I'm looking for. So
NPCC is probably going to be good too.
NPC, there's so many different and it's funny because nowadays there's so many new printers coming up all the time who might be like right in that perfect spot where they're working on creating a good stock but haven't figured out the formula yet. It might be the perfect card stacking stock.
Yeah, maybe I can get all their misprints and just take them. Take them all that.
It's the way to do it. It's definitely the way to do it.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered the idea of going the route of like not only designing it for like playing card stacking, but like really personalizing them to you? Or I know like you mentioned like the idea of like the windows and doors within the structures and all that. And I'm guessing there's very much an architectural aspect to the design of these things, not only from a integrity point of view, but from a visual point of view. Is that something that you found that kind of standard decks look better or custom decks look better, or is it kind of irrelevant?
Yeah. So there's a couple things related to that, I think. First of all, the cards that I use or like to use are bridge cards, bridge size cards.
wow.
So they're actually narrower than the poker cards, obviously. And that's kind of rare too, to be looking for bridge size cards. And the reason for that is that for when I'm doing things like a dome or curved surfaces, things like that, you can get much tighter radiuses with narrower cards because you're kind of creating this illusion of a curve with straight segments. And so the narrower it is, the tighter you can kind of place them together and get a nice sharp bend. Also, just I'm used to the balance point and everything of where to lean them against each other and all that. I can definitely do it with poker cards, but it takes me a little bit to like get used to it and adjust. So bridge cards size, and then in terms of like decoration and stuff, there are one of the backs of the cards that I use regularly. They're kind of like red, and they have like this black spade in the middle. And there's been certain projects where I've used I put the backs facing out in various places in the structure in order to create contrast with the faces of the cards. So because from a distance, it can be like kind of like pixel art kind of thing, like where you'll see, or even if I just make the like one stripe around the building in this red, it kind of really makes it stand out from the rest of the cards. And by the way, building with the card faces facing out from the structure is something that I started doing when I saw Brian Berg doing it, because to me, it was like, it really communicates to people that these are just playing cards. Because if you use the backs facing out, a lot of cards have like really interesting and beautiful back designs, but from a distance, it's really hard to tell, like, what is that? Are those cards? Like, what is that? And so I like to put the faces out, because then it's just instantly recognizable. It's like, oh, those are cards. And
you ever think of making a building out of like just ace of spades or?
Yeah, and I've done that. I mean, definitely when I'm building, I'm opening up all these brand new packets and like going through, like as I open them, they're all in order and stuff, so I can just whip off the jokers and the ace of spades right off the top. Nice. And I usually just make a pile, and then by the end of where I am, and I want to put a roof on there. In fact, some of the structures on my website or on my Instagram, like you'll see that I've used the spades or the face cards or something to just put the shingles on a roof or something. And when all the ace of spades are there, it kind of just like, it looks really cool. I wish I could show pictures, but it's okay. You can just go look it up, people.
Yeah, and anything that we're talking about today, as per usual, I'll link to a lot of this down below, especially if I can find it. So if it's out there, like I already found the book you had mentioned earlier, I found the intro to Vegas. I got the videos from CardistryCon 2017 of your tower and everything. So all of that will be in the comments below, guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
So, go ahead. Yeah, and the other thing with just using the card design itself as part of the decoration, I have seen some projects where, especially if it's from a client who is paying you to use their brand cards or something to build something, then they actually want the faces. You can still put faces out, but you need to put the backs out some places too to feature their company logo, their company name. Sometimes actually are using those to write words on the building. You can just arrange those backs facing out in a way that they spell out, like, I don't know, a company name, like
that's cool.
So or a logo or something like that. So that's another way you can do it. And the cards that I'm looking to get printed would probably just be kind of like a standard, very simple, either like a red or a blue back, just kind of generic, because I don't want them to be like, it's not about the card design itself. It's about what you do with those cards.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
What if you print basically just dual-sided
cards? Double face cards.
Double faces. That way you don't have to worry about the back.
Could do that. I mean, you could do that. I like, for the reasons we just talked about, I do like having the option of like having a colored side. I think there are times when it's useful to create contrast, or like if you're building a car or something. I just saw this other card stacker I know. Trying to think of his name is Rafay, Ahmed Rafay. He builds all sorts of crazy stuff and has them on his Instagram. And he just built this like house of cards that looks like a race car, and he used Uno cards and stuff to like create the wheels. And like, you know, the Uno cards have like a black back.
Yeah.
And when he put them on the wheels, it really looked like wheels. And then the rest of the car he used like red cards and stuff. And it was really beautiful, well done. Very impressive. And
It is really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So I mean that's when it is useful to have that kind of card back.
Yeah. Now, what I mean, I see you holding in your hand like one of your kirigami cards. Like,
oh yeah, it was just sitting here on the table.
Which these are so dope.
Oh, dude, like I am so fascinated by them.
Yeah,
I hear more about them.
So sure, yeah. So we've been talking about card stacking, and I think like the original question was, how did I get into card stacking and card art in general? And so I started with the card stacking, and then maybe like after I built some big stuff, after I built that tower and some of the projects, like, I don't know, my creative juices were just flowing. And I had this friend of mine that I work with. His name is Bill Taylor. He's a special effects guy, but he also is a magician. And he was in my office one day and saw all the cards in my office and was like, oh, hey, you like playing cards? And we had this little conversation, and he mentioned these WoW cards, as he called them. And this guy named Ian Rowland, who he knows, a magician who creates these WoW cards. And he was explaining them to me, and I didn't really understand what he was talking about, because until I saw a picture, I was just like intrigued. So I went home, I wrote down a note, and I went home and I like Googled it. And at the time, these things were really obscure and hard to find on the internet. So like I've definitely contributed to making them much easier to find on the web. If you look up kirigami cards or impossible cards or WoW cards, that kind of stuff. And I found a couple designs that Ian and Roland had created, and they weren't very good quality or anything, but I was like just doing detective work. And I sat down and just tried to recreate the design that I saw. And I really didn't get it until like a week later, when I was really looking closely, and I realized that my folds were not the way that he had folded it. Like his folds went backwards, and by backwards I mean like here, I'm going to try to pull one of these out here of my book and just show kind of what I'm talking about. All right, so
sure, I'll blow you up on screen real quick so everyone can see.
So this design is one where it's pretty simple. It's a square cutout of the top part, and it's folded down. And then there's these stems here. I don't know if you can actually see this, but there's these stems, and the square is actually linked on those stems. And and it's folded in such a way that if you tried to unfold it, it really doesn't unfold very easily. And so the folds, like you can fold it like this, but to have it fold and lay this way where these are underneath these stems, it's kind of like this whole topological puzzle where you have to kind of turn the card inside out and do all this crazy stuff. And when I noticed the detail of like the way that those stems were folded backwards, and I was like, wait, I did not do what I thought. And so that's when I really appreciated what we're talking about here. And so the kirigami cards to me are just really cool because they use this very constrained medium of like a regular playing card, just one card. And it's kind of like, okay, what kind of cool designs can I make? And then also some of them have an impossible-ish quality to them, and some of them are just cool to look at, or like geometric. So there's like all these different categories that I come up with that I kind of try to organize on my website. Some of them kind of bridge categories, but some of them are physically impossible. Like this one, for example, is topologically impossible to fold because these two loops here are intact. And I actually hate making this card because it is very difficult. So if you tried to fold this back to flat, you'd see that these two loops.
They like hit each other there.
They keep each other from getting flat again. So this is actually impossible card, like literally impossible.
That's so cool.
And it's obviously it's not impossible because I made it, but there's trickery involved in this that is not involved in most of my designs. Most of my designs are just cutting and folding. And nothing is detached and then reattached in very clever ways. So, and I like those ones. I like the ones that are pure at heart, but I like all of them, honestly. And I've so I found those designs, and I started making a couple of them, and then I got like obsessed, and I just started looking everywhere. I was using the Internet Wayback Machine. I was using all these things to just try to find like these old pictures, like terrible quality back when digital cameras were like 28 pixels wide, stuff like, little phone cameras and stuff. And I found a couple designs, and I tried to recreate them. And then I just started making my own designs and using some of the concepts that I'd learned, and then also just tinkering and drawing things. I started drawing things in Adobe Illustrator, using reflections and rotations and stuff to kind of line things up. And then I would print it out on paper, tape a card to it, and cut it with an X-Acto knife, try it out, and usually it wouldn't work the way I wanted it to. And then I would adjust the template, do it again. So it was very, very meticulous. Since then, I have graduated to a laser cutter, which makes things easier, but also a little harder, because there are, like, I don't use the laser cutter in full to just cut all the designs. I actually use it to score the card, and then I cut the rest of it with an X-Acto knife.
Give you a little bit of like a smoother edge.
You get a smoother edge. It doesn't, the kerf of the laser doesn't take out too much of the card, and it also doesn't singe the white part of the card. And by adjusting the laser settings, you can kind of get it to cut almost all the way through without burning. And it is an art, and you have to change it per card stock and card brand because they're different. And it doesn't cut the same way through a bicycle card that it cuts through a B card or some other card. So you have to adjust that and things, but that makes it a lot easier for prototyping, at least. And then I don't have to worry about, oh, that one didn't work. Now I have to sit here and cut with an X-Acto knife for another hour and a half. And then, because some of these designs are really intricate too. So it can take a while to cut by hand, not to mention that my fingers want to fall off.
Now, how long does it typically take you to do the average cut?
Like after I've designed it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Depending on the complexity of the cut, and depending on if I'm using the laser cutter, by hand, probably 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the complexity of the cut. Some of them take 20 minutes or more. And then the ones, the laser cuts that down to like 2 minutes per card or something like that.
Right.
But then folding it can sometimes take longer. There's also a lot of these designs where they're really, really finicky, and I screw them up. So I usually have to make multiple to get the results that I want, because something will tear, or I'll crease something where I didn't want to crease it. And once you've creased it, it's really hard to uncrease it. So, I like to be a perfectionist with them and try to get them as perfect as I can. And sometimes that prevents me from actually finishing some of them. So
Jackson actually has a great idea. He said what you need is someone who has tons of uncut sheets, which he does, and uncut sheet files and laser cut.
Yeah. And then just cut all of them at once. Yeah, no, that is a great idea. I definitely have thought about that too. Like, I have like a really homebrew kind of laser cutter too. It's definitely not like a pro level thing, because I don't use it enough to justify upgrading yet. I've certainly thought about it. There's a lot of way better products on the market now and much more affordable than the one I have was a couple years ago. It was like a kind of almost a prototype. I had to like assemble it myself. It's kind of like the early days of 3D printers too. It was like, you made it yourself, and then now you can get the off-the-shelf version, which is much neater, works really nice with the software. You don't need to like calibrate everything and adjust everything.
Yeah.
So I could upgrade that, but I don't use it that much. And for what I need, it's still working. Eventually, if I end up making way more of these, I'll probably do that. But for now, I just make them for friends and give them to people as little gifts and stuff. So it's really, I don't really like make an effort to sell them or anything. It's really just because I enjoy making them. I like designing new ones and seeing what else I can come up with. So it's really not, I do most of this stuff for myself. I don't really I could probably monetize a lot of this much better, but I don't care. I mean, I like to just create. That's really my focus. And I feel like that gets in the way sometimes of letting the creative stuff go where it needs to go. if I'm too worried about how can I monetize this or how can I sell this. And
Right.
but maybe eventually I get to a point where I can make them more available to people or whatever. But certainly if I've met you, I maybe have given you one or two of these in person and make good little gifts and puzzles for people to play with if they want to take them out and try to figure out how I folded them. So
yeah, I don't want to touch mine. I literally have it up there, and I'm like, I look at it, and I'm like, how the hell did he do that?
Well, I'll send you some more as a thank you for doing this. This chat.
Please, we're thanking you for coming on here. It's such a pleasure to have you on and hear about this stuff. It's interesting. But
since we're talking about it, can you show us your, I guess you can say, your museum of cards?
of
like the kirigami cards.
Yeah, your book.
So this is like my just my binder full of cards. So I've got most of the designs that I've made. Not every single one's in here because I may have given away the only copy that I had. But
look at that bottom right-hand corner one. Oh, so cool.
Yeah, a lot of these designs aren't mine. They're others. So on my website, I have all these designs posted, and like I try to credit the creator, or at least who I think created it, on there. And then if they're my designs, I label them as me as the designer. But you can see there's just a bunch of them. They go through all different styles, and
dude, they're so cool. Look at them.
Yeah, there's a ton. And I just have this book because that way I can kind of go through, and my file organization system on my computer is terrible. So I've been trying to work on that so that I can actually just pull up the design that I want. And
that top right one there is sick. It looks almost like cross-hatched.
Yeah, I call that one apple pie. That's one of my designs.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that the card looks intact.
This one, I actually made most of the ones on this page. Actually,
I love the circle because I really think it takes it to it. Like the jagged lines are really cool, but for some reason they seem a little like made, but like the rounded edges seem so natural. It makes it almost so much more like confusing.
Yeah.
So cool.
This is really awkward.
There's
a much better gallery on cardstories.co,
which we will definitely link to below.
Find all these. But yeah, no, I agree. I think the rounded ones, like this one's like just really, I mean, it's almost like the Zen or like a yin yang symbol.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
It's kind of like just really soothing. I think the curves are definitely hard to cut by hand. You can do it, and it just takes a really long time.
Sure.
It's really made it that much easier with the laser cutter. Cutting this one by hand is a pain in the butt because look at how detailed this one is.
Oh my god, yeah, that's so like intricate and small.
Little spider dangling down.
Looks sick, yeah.
And that really is just held on by that little piece of card that you see there.
That's crazy.
My beard.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that one's a popular one for people. They always try to pick that one out when I offer them. Pick up the letter here. Yeah, and like some of these are inspired by like Celtic knots. I'll just look up like designs of Celtic knots or things, and then I'll try to make a design out of it. And that's an example of like what I call the geometric or rotationally symmetric designs.
Oh, I think I have that.
As most of these ones are. These are all kind of like, they're not really impossible because they're really just folded in petals that are then braided with themselves. So these aren't as impossible, but they look cool as hell, I think.
Yeah. Really do.
And that's why this is one of my favorite ones I designed because it looks impossible. I call it, I don't remember what I call it, 6 rings or something.
All right.
And it's
cool.
So those center rings are woven through the outer rings, which are folded in. And this is what I call a one-way card. So it looks great from the front and your eye sees what it wants to see. It looks like those rings are complete and solid. But if you turn it around, you will see kind of hints at how it is done. And I'm not like ashamed to do that, but it's still pretty damn impressive and it looks cool. So
that's so sick.
There's definitely some designs that are what I call one-way topological, where they adhere to all the rules, but they really aren't. They don't hold up if you get full examination of it. But
now, have you ever like taken 2 of them and glued them back together?
I'm sorry, and glued them back together, or
no? This one glued the backs together. So
this one's interesting. This is actually 2 cards, and this is what was almost accidental. I had two of the same cut, and they laid on top of each other, and the piece from the back kind of went through the front, and then they like locked together.
Nice.
So it's like weird because this is like, it's multiple layers here, but
So cool.
but it from the front, it just looks like, wait, how is this? I don't know.
Dude, that's awesome.
There's definitely much more to explore with that technique. I think I could, do something really cool with that. This is another one of my favorite ones that I ever designed. I call this one paper clips.
Oh, that is so dope.
So cool.
It just, each one of those little horseshoes is linked, over and through the other ones that are adjacent to it. And that was one that I was really proud of.
Jackson said you could send that one way to him.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to work something out, Jackson, with with some of this stuff. I'll send you a bunch of these. This sheet, it has a bunch of cards. This is another really fun. First of all, this is one of my favorite decks of cards. Jeremy Griffith knows about that. I gave him a bunch of these when I bought up the last remaining supply of the Republic number 2s.
Oh, nice.
And now, of course, there's the Republic number 3s, but I'm obsessed with this deck. I just love how
it's a great looking deck.
I love the tiny pips and the tiny numbers, and I love the like simple but complex back design, borderless.
Dude, that's such a clean cut on that too. It looks so good.
Yeah. And so this, where is it? This design, I'm trying to find the actual like original of. I don't have it. Of course, it's probably in here somewhere.
Gave it away, Scott.
Well, this one's really fun because it's a one-way, but it is.
Oh, that's dope.
It totally seems impossible. The way I figured this one out and actually folding this one is like a true delight. The moment that I had it, like like I figured out how I wanted to do it and achieve it. It was like I was giddy with excitement of like how satisfying the fold was. It just kind of like clicked right in place, and I was like, oh my god. It's hard to explain until you've actually tried doing it yourself. And then I get into the other stuff that's not really that kind of kirigami. So this is like a card that I've
that's dope.
Folded and kind of just, it's pretty simple because this is
almost
just
like a braiding or something. That's really cool.
But it's all one card, obviously, and I just love making like creative forms with. So if I just keep twisting, it's just twisted a bunch. It's almost like a hyper card that's flat. This is what it looks like, and then you just kind of keep twisting and tucking and twisting and tucking. I'll fix that later. That's fine.
That's so cool.
And then these were some stuff when I was just cutting designs. Like I thought, this is why I like those like deck cut things, because I just love the way that if you cut one card and then put it on top of another color card, it lines up. It just looks so cool. Yeah. So just designs like that I was toying with at one point in time. I never really finished it. These were my early attempts at a layered cut, because I like to make little vignettes, and so this is finally a good use for all those colored knock cards that everyone got in their mystery boxes. But this I used, a black knock and then brown and a purple and a yellow and an orange and a red to create this like cowboy, really, and it is three-dimensional. And if I put a little spacing between the layers,
that's like that nice. That's so sick.
Yeah. So that was a cool design I did. I've got one I haven't finished yet, which you'd recognize here. I'm going to do Jurassic Park logo.
I saw that in the thing and I was like, oh, I didn't know they made sideways Jurassic Park playing cards, but no, that's
just
so
different colors and cleverly layered.
That's so cool.
I never finished that with the white background. It's probably really close. And then this is not kirigami, but this is my other stuff that I do. This is card scratching.
Which I love the look of this too, because it reminds me of like almost like an inverted charcoal drawing.
Yeah. So I remember also like when I was in like grade school, there was you'd color with like crayons on a piece of paper, and then you put black crayon on top of it, and then you'd scratch away the black, and you'd have the colors underneath. I don't know if anyone else ever did that, but
yeah,
in my art class.
They make that paper that does that now too, where you scratch it and
you can get it pre-made. But these were just Madison rounders, I just took the black ink, and you can see I like to incorporate the logo if I could, so that you can still see that it's just a card. I basically blacked out the bottom logo, and then I scratched it. And I love Rex from Toy Story, so
Nice.
I did Rex, and then I also did Woody, and I made the little M into a W and a badge for his sheriff's badge. And then I had the little alien dudes with the claw.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, I've done a bunch of these. Pixar characters are good. I hate doing people because I'm
Mike
not that great.
Wazowski from Monsters Inc. is great. I love that.
I'm not that great at doing like art. So like drawing people, I'm not very good at. So if I can just,
I'm not great at art. I'm looking at this; it looks amazing. I'd be able to do maybe a stick figure.
There's that was like the first one I did. You can see how crappy it was. That was just a freehand squirrel.
And that looks amazing though. That's still impressive.
There's
wow.
Scrat. I like to put him across the
nice
the things. And again, these are all on my website if you guys want to check them out later.
That one is dope too.
What's this guy's name? Stripe from Gremlins?
Yeah.
And so and this is unfinished. This is a BB-8 that I've been working on, but I haven't really finished it. You can see that you can kind of see the hint of them there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
And this is hard because I kind of I have to go very, carefully because you can't really put it back. So you just take off a little bit, and then you have to step back and look and go, okay, I can go make that part brighter. But once you make it too white, you can't undo it.
That's got to be tough.
So, and then I've got some more designs that are back here. Some of these are repeats, but yeah. So
is that a dog or a goat?
That was a goat.
Okay, I saw the horns at the top of the last minute. I thought it was a dog too, Steve.
Yeah, no, it's a goat.
It's so good. I love it.
That's so good.
During normal times, I work at a bar that's named after a goat. It's called the Surly Goat, and so I just made that one day because I used to do this sitting at the bar. That's how I met some of my friends, and actually how I started working there. And I was sitting there working on cards, off in the corner by myself, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing, man? Who are you, and what are you doing here?" And I was like, "I just like making stuff with cards." And they're like, "Okay." Got talking.
Oh my god,
so cool. Dude, there's so many things you can do with cards. There's someone that I follow on Instagram, and he basically paints on the back of cards.
Oh yeah.
Well, Welly Walk or something like that.
Yeah.
So there was a guy. I mean, I got the card scratching idea years ago from a guy who was kind of painting on cards too. I don't know if his Instagram is still active, but I think his name was Tom Greystone.
Okay.
He used to make some amazing art, card scratching, and also painting on cards. That was really cool to me. And then the other art that I do is the mystery box card series that I did for 2 years on my Instagram, and that's kind of a blend between kirigami and pop-up cards. Actually, they are just basically pop-up cards. I was trying to challenge myself every week to make a new 3-dimensional shape out of just one playing card. And I don't know why I used the mystery box cards. It's just they came out right when I was starting this project, and I tried to be unlock the mystery and whatever. And I normally would have all those I could show you, but they're on my bookshelf at work. I have them on display, all the ones that I made.
Nice.
They're always a good conversation starter when people come into my office. They're like, "What the heck is that?" And they start asking about stuff with cards.
Dude, that's so cool. Now, have you ever done any tuck boxes or?
Designing them or cutting them?
Cutting them.
What do you mean?
Cutting or scratching them even?
Or scratching them.
I haven't. No. Definitely. So seeing some of the deck cuts where they're putting them into the box and then cutting out the front of the box too, has got me thinking. I'm working on some. I'm working with my brother, who's a mechanical engineer, electrical. I don't even know what kind of engineer he is. I'm sorry, Carl. Carl, if you're watching, I'm sorry. No, I think he's a mechanical engineer.
Nice.
He's really good with electronics and building stuff. So I'm having him work on something that I will unveil if and when it works. We're still in prototyping phases, but I think it's going to be really cool for the deck cuts and for other card art that I've been working on.
Nice.
But I've been thinking, I do have this Edgar Allan Poe series that I've been working on. It's inspired by all the short stories and works of Edgar Allan Poe, poems and such, nice. Where it's kind of a combo of card, the kirigami, but combined with 3-dimensional and tuck boxes and all sorts of stuff. So just using card stuff to tell moments, my favorite moments and imagery from some of the Poe works. So hopefully I can finish those and then like start posting them up like once a week or something to unveil them. But
did you see the new Origin deck that's on Kickstarter right now?
I have not been on Kickstarter recently. I have not seen.
They actually have a laser cut. Yeah, it's a laser cut Garden of Eden scene on a matte black deck.
You gotta check
that. I would definitely check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you the link after the show. It's really good looking.
The other thing too is like there's just so many playing card decks, as you guys know. I mean, it's beautiful. I love everything playing cards. I love the design. I love the difference in design. I love transformation decks too. Like I have all these hanging up here. These are
which are new. You got them specially to have.
Well, I've had the uncut sheets forever, but these are by one of my favorite designers. When I first got to Instagram, I followed him, and it like blew my mind. His creativity, Emmanuel Jose. He did like the Clipped Wings deck and the Delicious deck, and those ones, Curator deck, and I've always had these, and I finally got them hung up on the wall. So, but yeah, I mean, like the card stuff, like the Kickstarter. Seeing some of these designs and the creativity and just, I mean, I always love like a very classic look, which is why I love the Republics, but I also appreciate, like, I just love how infinite the possibilities are with things you can do with the faces and the backs and the tuck and all those things. It's just really, and the edges. I mean, the way that people are gilding these things now, and it's crazy. It's absolutely beautiful, and I love following it. I can't nearly afford to buy all the ones that I like.
None of us can.
But
that's also because you're buying pallets of decks to build towers. Yeah.
But I try to support things that I can here and there when I see them, or when I'm like really attached to a design. I do love those. What are they? Just came out, the Cabinetarium ones from Art of Play. Yeah, I just love that artist that they had. I love his design sense. You know, just the way he sketches those weird creatures and things.
Such a cool deck. It really is a cool deck.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely buy cards and love to just look at the designs. I have tons of decks just sitting on my shelf at work that I'll probably never. I mean, sometimes I like to use my cards. I like to cut them if there's something that I feel like, okay, I need to use this deck for this, or this one inspires me to use it in this way. But I'd certainly have decks that I just like to sit there and look at, you know?
Yeah.
That's dope.
I think we all do.
Yeah. I mean, clearly we got the, you know.
Yeah,
but like,
right.
with like the back design, I guess, coming more into the kirigami too. A lot of times when you're making these cuts, do you think like, oh, well, this is a nice you know, simple pattern green, or this is like, do the colors come into play in that aspect too?
Yeah, certainly. Like there's certain decks or certain cuts where I'll make it, and like either from back design that then gets folded through to the front, and you're seeing it with. So I think a lot. I try different ones with like the number that I choose, or the face card or whatever, because sometimes they can look really, really busy. So here's an example. I was actually requested by Art of Play to make these ones on the face cards, and to actually fold the face cards to the back onto the plaid, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that was a request from them when I made these. Something like this design is,
that's so dope.
I chose to use green, and I chose to put it on red pips, and then I also chose to use a 4 because I wanted it to look like a card, but I also didn't want the center. I tried it with the center filled in, and I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I'm sure that the green on red there probably was a little Christmas wreathy.
Yeah, and even this, like I tried black too, but I just liked the contrast when I photographed it with the red. But yeah, so I use, you know, that was a good use for a green bicycle card, and I don't always use bicycle. I mean, I have all these other color decks too. Sometimes the back design is a little too busy on the bicycles as well, like just because of all the detail. And so for like some of my really intricate cuts, I don't really like or I'll even design here's another use of the Republic pips, and I'll use I actually designed it around the pips placement, really where this really wouldn't work on another card, or these ones actually that I also did around the
This is
pips.
so
And
good.
then or these ones. Sorry, I just keep pulling these up.
No, I mean
This is,
it's awesome to see how
Photoshop
passionate
yourself.
about it you are, though. Like, and it's
this
so
is a box,
so amazing.
you know, just a heck. I call this one hex box or something because I always do this on a 6, and it closes whatever suit I used, and
That's so
then
dope.
try to find that one that I'm talking about where it looks a little too busy. I've been working on one like the spider card with an octopus for my sister because she asked me like 2 years ago to make one with an octopus, and
That
I
would
keep
be
telling her
dope.
that I'm working on it. And I've tried cutting it like a dozen times on different cards and stuff, and I have to keep simplifying the design because it looks cool as anything when I'm sketching it on in Illustrator. But then when I actually cut it and fold it, it's just too busy and it gets lost. So it looks great when I have the contrast and everything of just like a plain red back. But I gotta keep finessing it, and like there will be a happy medium where I take some of the detail away, and it still looks really cool and intricate, but it's also clearly, oh, that's an octopus.
Yeah.
Like,
Like a job for another knock.
And
Yeah,
something like
I
that
could
too would be the
definitely use
things
a
that
knock.
like
Yeah.
people would like clamor after, like, because those are like the ones I think like the spider is really cool. People are like in a big octopus phase right now too, where it
Are
really,
they? I didn't know about that.
well, so like I mean I think in the past couple of years there's been at least 2 or 3 decks that have come out with like octopi being like the central, you know, elements of it, and
Yeah.
people really love. It seems people love octopus, so
Or
that's
maybe
so dope.
I don't know how well we can see this one, but you can see it's very busy. And
Yeah.
I call this one Snowflake. And
Yeah.
into the photography that I was able to do, you could actually get some of with the shadows and the lighting better. You could actually see the detail that I wanted people to see. But on a surface level, just looking at this, it kind of gets lost. And it's because the B back with the diamonds and cross hatching it's too distracting when it gets all layered up. So if I did this with a solid color, it would look better.
Yeah, you'd be able to get the contrast of the white in the background to pop through a little bit more and really show those voids.
So
Yeah.
that definitely plays into it when I'm designing these and when I'm actually like making ones. And I do take like requests if somebody like really wants like a particular card, like wants me to use a particular deck or a particular card because it has a sentimental meaning to them, where they're like, I want you to use like the 10 of clubs or whatever. Like I can do that clearly, but it's sometimes I've actually recommended them, hey, or with the art of play stuff, I asked them what designs they wanted when they asked for those to be made, and then I had to say, oh well, I kind of, those ones really only look good on like the 3 of diamonds, 4 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, like the Argyle design that I had there. Like it's kind of designed to go with the diamond pips and only in certain layouts. So I was like, well, I can only get like 6 per deck out of that, like of that design out of the, so that definitely does factor into it.
Now, how many cuts did you have to do for them?
So the first batch I made them was 100 cards, 5 different designs, 20 of each, and then second batch was same nice. 5 designs, another 20 of each. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot easier the second time because I already had everything all lined up and ready and all the materials on hand. Unfortunately, they got that order in right before things shut down, because otherwise my cards and everything would have been locked up in my office and I wouldn't have been able to. I literally mailed that package out to them the day before I was banned from going into my office.
So you're not even allowed to go in there to
just
get
under the wire.
They won't even let you go in to get your stuff. Really?
I can't go in like unless it's for like essential work. So I mean, there is a point where I'm going to be going in some point in the near, like hopefully in the next month, maybe. I don't know. I've been asking for a couple months now to try to. There's some essential work I do need to do on site because there's equipment that is only accessible there, and so I'm going to get in, and then while I'm there, I'm going to like bring a cart and just load it up with all my card stuff and take it to my car. So
yeah, heck yeah,
get it out of there. Yeah, but
I would do.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, in that way, like maybe like all my knock cards and everything are there, which would be fun to have access to again and use, because again, those are great for just using for solid colors of
Yeah.
things when I'm doing my layered cuts and stuff. I do have a lot of more ideas. I've designed a bunch of little vignettes like that cowboy riding into the sunset. I do
So
like
dope.
the idea. Like I have like an island scene with like a palm tree in the foreground, and like I have African safari. Like I like the idea of using the red, orange things or blue, purple, dark blue, blue, purple colors to make like a night sky gradient kind of thing.
Nice.
And I just like using the silhouette because then I don't have to be super detailed, and it kind of like gives it kind of that artsy feel. So
Right.
I've got a couple more little vignettes like that, and I don't know. I've got a bunch of other things like the germ of an idea, but haven't been fleshed out yet into something workable. But
you know what you should do? You should link up with Cat Bolt and create a mini miniature kirigami.
Yeah, totally. I watched that episode of her stuff, and I was like, "What is like? This is crazy how small these things are." Yeah. But that would be awesome to make like a miniature like card, and then actually make like a microscopic kirigami thing on it. So it's like the world's tiniest kirigami card.
Or you can make tiny cards, send them to her, and she'll or she can make tiny cards, send them to you, and you can make like a 2-foot.
A little card tower.
A tiny giant card tower.
Yeah, but it'd be cool.
It'd be the world's shortest card tower.
It'll be like a collaboration, you know, but it will be.
Yeah, it would be 20 card stories tall, but it would be less height than a single playing card.
Right. That'd be so cool.
That would be really dope. That would be something else. And it sounds like, I mean, I love the fact that like these ideas just seem to really like flow freely through your mind, and you just try and capitalize on them in the way that like for your own benefit though, because you just love doing it. Like I love that aspect.
Yeah. I mean, it really just depends on like what's getting me fired up at the moment. Like I definitely go through phases where it's all about the kirigami, and then like and with card stacking, like I still love doing it. Like whenever I do card stack, I get into this like mental zen state, which I love. It's like very addictive. It's kind of like a runner's high, except it's like a card stacker's like
in the zone,
like,
man.
Tranquility. Like and it's I love that. Like even with so whenever I'm doing that, like I go through these phases, and like that's what like fires me up. And like the card stacking I haven't been doing for a while, and part of that is just because it takes so long, and I kind of like almost made a pledge to myself where, you know, it's like I said, I hinted at earlier, it's just not worth it to me to kind of like spend a whole like 3 or 4 day weekend like in a dark room building by myself. Right. Even though I love making the videos and like having the final product and being like, yo, look what I did. It's kind of like, man, I just spent 4 days doing that, and like it's awesome and it's great and I love it while I'm doing it. But then I always have like fear of missing out of I don't know what. I mean, there's nothing going on, but I want to card stack again, but I really only do it now for paying gigs, and even then I kind of say no to a lot of those just because I've learned the power of saying no, just because there's a lot of projects that aren't going to work out. I can immediately tell, you know, they're not serious enough, or they don't really understand the complexities involved, or they're not willing to work with me to kind of like go through all the logistics that I need to know before I can commit to saying yes.
Right.
And I've learned all that over time through really bad experiences. I mean, there's been projects where I've said yes and I've gone in and I'm like, oh, I forgot to tell them about this, or I forgot to tell them about that. And it's completely crazy. So my goal, the only time I will card stack for myself probably in the near future is, and what I really want to do, like, and this pandemic has kind of like given me the sense of like, oh, you know, time, you never know what's coming around the corner. So like, you should probably do what you want to do soon, you know, seize the day, that kind of stuff. Right. So I've always wanted to break the world record for the tallest card house, and it's still a goal of mine. I've just kind of been procrastinating and being lazy about it. And why? I don't know. I have the cards. I just got to contact somebody and find someone who's willing to host it, which I don't think will actually be that difficult. I think
I can't imagine that
a place would be like pre-fired up if I was like, hey, like all I need is like a little bit of space and I mean, obviously it needs to be somewhere with a high ceiling, like an atrium in a hotel building or like a casino or something. But
how high does it have to be?
Well, the world record is 26 feet,
I think 26.
9 and 7/16 inches or something.
Oh, wow.
I think. And which is like 8.6 meters, I think. Or no, sorry, not 8, 7.8 meters, I think.
Okay.
So I built one to 20.5 feet without even knowing really what I was doing. That was the first, when I got all those cards, the palette of decks, the first thing I wanted to do was just build a huge tower. And so I went and I built, and I planned it to be 20 feet tall. And it ended up a little bit taller than that, but I planned to build 70 card stories exactly. And that's what I built.
Nice.
And to be honest, not to say that there weren't challenges, there certainly were, like the fact that I was standing on top of a 16-foot ladder, like literally on the top rung by myself in a soundstage with a concrete floor. I probably should have died. I'm surprised I didn't. Very unsafe. I would never do that again. But I did, and I built it, and I was surprised at how easy it was. Like once I got into the groove of it, it was really just repetition of building the same thing over and over and over and over up until a certain point, and then tapering it in a little bit and building again and again and again and again. And I like surprised myself with how sturdy it was too. I mean, just like a real skyscraper, it swayed with the winds and the gusts in the room. So the airflow, like when you're up there on the ladder and you're looking down and you're placing cards, if you bump it, like the whole thing would just go.
That's crazy.
And it scared me the first 16 times I did it because I'm clumsy as anything and I bump it all the time. But nothing would fall. And I'd be like, this is way stronger than I thought. And then tearing it down, I realized how strong it actually was too. Yeah. So I was never really, I learned so much from that. And I know that I was only 6 feet away from the record, 7 feet away from the record. So if I build again, if I'm going to invest that time to build again, I'm building to 40 feet. God damn it. Like we better believe.
All right. So dude, when are you going to do it?
When I get my cards, and then I'm going to just start sending out queries probably. Like I got to do it. Just find a place, take off like 2 or 3 weeks from work and just go do this. Like I can totally do that.
Obviously, yeah, it wouldn't be like a straight through thing. You'd have to do it over the course of time and have breaks and things like that.
I'd have to sleep. I would not do it all in one shot, but
I mean, I'm assuming that would be probably like 50 hours total, if not more.
Oh yeah. It's been so long since I've done it. I'd have to like do a little bit of planning just to like remind myself and do some estimates on time so that I have realistic estimates. But I did those calculations when I did the 20-foot tower, and that was pretty accurate to what I expected. So especially for something that's that repetitive, it's pretty easy to extrapolate to how long it's going to take. And I could do that, figure that out, and go and do this. And I would need to sleep somewhere and take breaks. But yeah, it's totally doable. And I would love to get the world record from Brian Berg. And just because part of it's kind of like this, like, well, it's like kind of an inside joke with me and some other card stackers, but like, we just want to like challenge him because he's been so unchallenged for the longest time. So it's kind of like, I always say, when the day that I break the record, like I want him to hear about it in the news and turn to his wife, who is like also his manager, and just be like, honey, we got to get the ladder. Let's go. We got to get the record back. Like that's his calling card. Cool.
And then you guys can go back and forth.
Yeah. And honestly, like, and I'm not doing it to like beat him and to like be like, haha, I told you. Like it's out of respect. It's like, hey, like, dude, you inspired me to do this. And like, now let's push the limits and see what's possible. Like, how tall can we go? Because we both believe we can go taller. So the only reason we're not doing it is because there's no reason to yet. And like, for me, the reason is I can get the record. And then the reason for him will be to get the record back. And
Brad said, come beat the record at his house.
Do you have a 40-foot ceiling, Brad? I would totally. I'll be there.
Oh, you need it higher than 40 because you're going to do a 40-foot. So
you don't want to be. You don't want to be on top rung of a 40-foot ladder, cramped up against a ceiling.
Yeah. Well, for that, I'm going to get scaffolding.
Yeah, it's probably a smart move.
I'm going to build scaffolding around it because that will actually make it easier that I can actually walk all sides of the tower. When I had one ladder, I had to like climb up. You can see it on time lapse on YouTube. It's like I'd put the ladder up, and I was doing this all by myself too. So I'd put the ladder up, I'd build a couple things, and then I'd like get down and I'd really carefully move the ladder to the other side. And I had to keep doing this like over and over and over again. And every time I moved the ladder, I would like, am I going to accidentally knock this thing over into the tower? I mean, it was a 16-foot ladder. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
You know what would be cool?
Heavy.
You know what you could do? This would be really cool. You can get like you, Brian, like, I mean, obviously I don't know, you know, obviously Alex is a card stacker as well. You can get like a team and do it together. That way you could do like 90 feet tall or something.
I've actually thought about, we've talked about this before, Alex, I think, and me have talked about like, would it like we years ago, like I went to his house and met him, and like we built a project together. Like we didn't build on the same tower, but we built side by side and kind of built up like some structures. And we were talking like how like would I be able to come in and like continue, like if we did like almost like a tag team builder like thing where like I'm building for 6 hours and then Brian comes in and like builds on top of what I've been building, and then like Alex comes in and builds on top of what Brian does, and then I'm sleeping during that and I come back, and so like it's like nonstop stacking, like card stacking. Like that would be crazy. I don't even know if that would work. Like I don't know if I would like Brian would come and be like, dude, I can't build on this. Like your style is so crappy. Like I don't know. Would he just be like, this is garbage. I can't build on
that. That would be the true like challenge for each of you, because you guys are working on each other's like styles. You know, I don't know if there's a different style, but like I think that would be really cool to test your limits.
I'd imagine there'd have to be a lot of like pre-planning as well, though, because it sounds like based on the way you build, you can't just be like halfway up the tower and be like, oh, like I don't know where it's not like free form necessarily. You have an idea of what sort of like structure and shape and ins and outs it's going to have
for something that large. For something that large, I would plan it out. And like the thing I did, I went to Spain like 2 years ago in December for this nighttime show they have with like weird puppets. Like it's called El Hormiguero. It's like a weird variety show. It's really popular there. I didn't understand what was going on. Like there was this guy with a sandwich and like a hunchback. It was super weird. But they called me over there. They flew me over and had me build an Empire State Building and some other stuff. And for that, I did a lot of pre-planning to know how many cards I was going to need, how much time in advance I was going to need. There was a lot of logistics to that, and like I used like Google SketchUp to like build these little cubes that were representative of a card cell, and I actually like planned out how many cards wide and how many cards across and tall and everything, and I sent those renders to them. Actually, I think the renders are on my website too for that project if you guys want to see like what I designed and then what actually ended up being there.
Nice.
That's cool. And it was like you know, that was fun, because then what I ended up building was almost to a T what I designed, like with the Empire State Building, at least in terms of exactly the design. Because once you start at the base, it kind of dictates everything above it. Needs to go, because you can't add stuff really later. You can't decide halfway up, oh, you know, I really wanted this 2 cards wider or whatever. You just got to go with it. And with a card tower like that, where it's for a world record, I'm not really building it with decoration in mind. I'm building it for functionality and for height. And so for that, it's kind of like, how efficiently can I build something that was strong enough to withstand being 40 feet tall? Because it will have those forces that affect real skyscrapers, where, you know, if you're in downtown New York City and there's a gust of wind and you're on the 80th floor, like that building sways, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
And that will happen with card towers too. And you just need to understand that the lateral forces are not enough to overcome the center of gravity of where the tower's center of gravity is, and the forces that are pushing down with gravity and keeping all the cards in place, and making sure that the cards at the bottom are strong enough to withstand all the weight pushing down on them from above.
I want to knock that tower over.
Well, I'm guessing in those situations too, you're not just using single cards, you're using like multiple cards together to get them like more rigid.
Yeah. So, and again, that's another thing where like sometimes you'll see in some of my videos, there's like a build-in like duplicate or triplicate. So like three cards, and I'll do that. I'll do like a tap, and then I'll use that. But you can see like even 3 cards, it's still pretty narrow.
Yeah, it's not that thick.
And I also do this thing called pre-stressing, which is where I kind of do a quick little flex like that just once, And the reason for that is that once those forces are on there, those cards are going to bend. And what
Right.
you'd want is you want the cards to bend the direction that you want them to bend, which is in towards the other cards which are bracing it. So if you've got a card, you've got these cards perpendicular here, you want it to bend this way and not that way. Because if it goes that way, then you get failure because it's not protected. But if it's bending in toward the other cards, they kind of all push against each other and distribute those forces. So I mean, you can learn a lot about physics and structural building like through doing this. And you can look at the cards after you build a tower, you go down to the bottom and you're looking at, and you're like, you'll see some cards that are just on the side of the building like this. And you're like, how is that happening? And then there's other cards that literally you could just pull out and they're not supporting anything. And you're
that's
like,
crazy.
Like, and then you realize that you didn't build completely level. And the reason, so there's all these things you learn, these like pro level card stacker tricks where things to look out for and things to adapt to. And, you know, those are the kind of details that only come with practice and experience.
Right.
But I want to try to do my best. I mean, I don't really think there's an audience for that kind of content necessarily, but if I start with basics, like I really do want to document some of what I've learned because I think that there's so much more to be explored in card stacking and so much more to be discovered. There's just so few people doing it that because it requires so much patience and dedication. And I really want to see what's possible. I want to see people pushing the art to new forms and new boundaries. And I feel like if I can get people to that level faster, so like distill some of my knowledge to the internet, like through YouTube or something where if somebody wants to find out some of these pro tips, they can actually like learn from this video about, oh, like I need to look out for that. And here's how I can fix it and compensate for that. That's something that I've been thinking about too. It's like,
I think
you know,
people would
a
love
lot
that.
of this knowledge might just die with me and Brian. And like, if we never tell anybody, it's just, someone's going to have to discover it again.
Yeah.
And
no, it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write a book, man.
And who knows, like you said, you know, there's two ways it can go. People could absolutely be fascinated by it. And I think it's the same thing with magic. You'll get people who are absolutely fascinated by it. And 1% of them will actually follow through with it. But that's 1% of people who wouldn't have looked at it otherwise. And you're giving them the resources where they do have a jump start because they don't have to start where you started. They're starting at least with a little bit of a foresight. And even if it's 10% of a head, you know, kind of a head start, that could lead to 10% more innovation down the road, you know, and that could be, you know, groundbreaking.
Yeah. And it's again, like if this were something I were trying to sell like a bunch of DVDs or like views or whatever, however you sell videos nowadays online, you know, I'm not trying to do that. Like that would be stupid because literally like 2 people in the world would probably buy the DVD if I made that, you know. It's just like I'm definitely in favor both in programming that I do like for my work and other stuff like open source, like just kind of the community culture of like sharing knowledge and trying to, because I think that once it's out there, like anyone can figure out how I make these kirigamis like the same way I did. I have the designs literally on my website. You can just take that picture, bring it in to Photoshop or something, size it to 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches and print it out. And there you have the cut template. You can cut the exact same shapes that I have. Like, I don't care if you do that. Like, I actually encourage people to try to tinker with it and like figure it out. I think you learn stuff from doing that. So like, I really liked like that community, open source, freedom of knowledge. Like, let's all share it because I think that propels things forward. It makes people want to try to come up with that next big thing or that little innovation that then creates the next craze.
Yeah.
So you kind of alluded a little bit to it when you mentioned, you know, you used to hang out a lot at this bar where you've met some friends for, you know, doing cards, scratching and things like that. What's people's reaction first time when this comes up and they may know you through other things, whether it's work or personal life? Like, are people like, wait, what are you talking about? Or are they like, oh my God, I've seen that before? Like, how does that go?
Yeah, I mean, I get all sorts of responses. Like, it's definitely not like it's like a chick magnet thing. Like this is not like when I reveal this to people, it's not like they're like, oh, he's a card stacker, like, you know, or like it's always a good conversation starter though. Like, because if people ask what I do, I usually don't tell them that I'm like a color scientist in the film industry because then I got to get into like what that is. Like, it's just annoying. So like, it's always way more interesting for me to just be like, oh, well, I'm a playing card artist or I'm a card stacker. And they're like, oh, what? Like, I've never heard of that. And then I tell them what I do and all that. And then if the conversation continues, then I can explain to them what color science is and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely started some interesting conversations. I certainly, the weirdest experience I had, I've been featured a lot on like some of these, I don't even know what, I'm trying to think of the name of the aggregator sites on like Facebook and stuff that edit down video content and then share it. And they have like all these millions of followers, like Board Panda and stuff like that. Right. Like, so there was one time where someone had contacted me and asked permission to use some of my videos off YouTube and edit something together about me. And they featured me and got a ton of responses and a bunch of I love reading the comments on stuff like that too. Cause they're always like, this dude needs a girlfriend. Like, this dude's a nerd, like all this stuff. Like,
yeah, the funny thing is though, people can say that all day, but they just spent X amount of minutes watching the video and took time to comment. They're just as nerdy.
But my favorite thing is to like go into the comments and be like, yeah, well, you know, like just like to troll them. Like, it's great. Cause like, I am single. So like, you know, like, yeah, you're right. I do need a girlfriend. Like,
bro, you need a card stacking girl.
But
you guys can create lovely like stacks together. That's what you need to do.
So they shared that video on Facebook, right? And I walked into like a Starbucks or something, and the girl like behind, she recognized me, and she was like, did I just see you on Facebook? I was like, what? Like, who are you? I don't even know who you are. Like,
like introduce yourself to someone.
You do something with cards? Like, I think I saw you on the internet today. And I was like, oh yeah, that happened. I was like, yeah, like, it's just like completely random. Like, it was so weird. I certainly am not famous by any means, but that was like the most like close to fame I've had. It was like some random stranger just recognized me from a video they saw that earlier that day on Facebook. That was kind of weird.
Honestly, though, man, better it was that than some other terrible viral video.
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah. Like, hey, aren't you the dude that coughed in someone's face?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh
so yeah, God. I mean, it's usually a good conversation starter. It's definitely unique. Many people haven't heard of it before, or have like, they're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing, like, some of them remember seeing the video or like a video somewhere, or seeing a segment of mine or something on one of the TV shows that have featured me. Like, it just pops up here and there. It's always like a weird how it connects to people. And the other thing is, like, I love when I get the response from people who see me doing this in public and they see me like card stacking, and they're afraid that, like, if they come up to me and talk to me while I'm building, like, they're going to distract me. And it's going to, like, no, I encourage, like, you can talk to me. It's cool. Like, let's have a conversation, ask me questions. And then they usually are like inspired by that, because they realize, like, I know how important that would have been to me as a young kid to like be like, oh, I can totally do this. Like, I can go try this. Or I just love that idea of like using something that's so familiar to people. Cause like you guys said before, like in the intro, like, you've tried building a card house. I think everyone at some point in their life has tried to stand two cards up on end and build something with it. Yeah. It's just like natural instinct to, like, between playing a game, you're playing with the cards, start building something. And I just like that. It's so familiar. Playing cards are so familiar to people, and to see it used in such extraordinary ways for card stacking or kirigami or any kind of art, it's just, that's what's really interesting to me. It's such a functional thing, but the design possibilities are infinite. I mean, just in the design of cards and the card backs and the faces and all these wonderful playing card decks that are available, or using them in creative ways too. That's what really is so cool to me.
You know, absolutely agreed. I think playing cards have it's funny because I think playing cards have a important part that they've played in almost everyone's life, but we downplay it so much because it was just a part of our childhood. You know, I mean, like, if you didn't learn how to play a card game from someone in your family and just kind of like forgot about it at this point, or, you know, there's always this monumental moment that we almost downplay so much because cards are just an everyday part of life at some point. And I 100% agree with you. I think that's one of the coolest things about it, is seeing the creative ways that people take a mundane object, for lack of a better term, and make it fantastical.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's like you said, you know, there's so many things, whether it's playing cards or Uno or, you know, other games, you know, cards are in everybody's life, you know, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or baseball cards, or, you know, we've all grown up with cards some sort, you know.
You can tell Steve's never played Dungeons and Dragons before because there's no cards.
I've never played Dungeons
He
and
hasn't.
Dragons.
We've tried. We've told him we have to teach him every once in a while, and I love that you just threw that in there. But it makes me happy. It makes me so happy.
It's funny. What's Magic the Gathering?
Magic the Gathering, yeah,
That's what I meant.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the funny thing,
cards.
because I don't play those like strategic card games or anything like that. But anyway,
So-
you know, cards are, even if it's like Garbage Pail Kids, you know, I think we literally grew up around cards all the time, you know. And obviously, you know, playing cards is a staple in everybody's house.
I don't have it here, but that Ninja Turtle deck, even, like, there's so much nostalgia behind it, and I don't think it hits until something re-triggers it as an adult, unless you have consistently had it with you that whole time. Like, you know, obviously on your end, where you've been doing this for years now, it's a constant part of your life. But I think for so many people, it does become a background memory. But you know, what I guess one of the things that interests me about this too, and you mentioned you do color science for the film industry. Are you as passionate about that as you are about playing cards?
I'll say I was. I think like when I feel like I've lost some of that. Like, I mean, just the grudge of work and the daily grind kind of wears you down over time. And like when I first came out of school and had all this new knowledge and was like going into, like, I was like, I'm in the real world now, yay! And like I get to use all this stuff I learned, and it was really exciting. And I thought I was gonna like change the world and all this stuff. And then like after, then I realized like, oh, there's like, you know, bureaucrat like stuff and politics and all this, like, so it's like there was always a boss that's telling you, oh, you don't work on that, do this, or like, and it's just kind of like it got to a point where I was like, I still like doing it, I still enjoy what I'm doing, I wouldn't be doing it still if there wasn't something there that gave me pleasure and I liked it. It's interesting work. I love movies too, so being connected to it and being able to work on it kind of like behind the scenes. Like, I don't really work on post-production per se. I kind of do stuff that then gets used in post-production, like a design systems and things that get used by the film industry for rendering and color management and things like that. So like being connected to it in that way, and then knowing that like my stuff was in some way like a part of being used on film X or film Y is like super cool to me. Like I like to be able to tell when I go home, my friends go, what do you even do? And usually I just say, I like, remember Avengers Endgame or whatever. Like the reason why that looked the way, part of the reason why it looked the way it did is because I worked on this thing. And like, obviously there was a hell of a lot of people that worked on that movie. So I didn't like do it by myself, but I just like part of what I did was used on that film or other films, and it's just, they're like, oh, and then they can connect to that. So that gives me joy. I don't really like, I don't get super excited about it like I do with creating card stuff. And so maybe there's a point where like I can turn some of this card stuff into more of like a semi-professional or like a way to have like supplemental income where I don't need to worry so much about the main job. Not that that's my main goal necessarily, but there are certainly ways I could probably use this and then slip more into like a consultant role or something and kind of be able to do both. So it's definitely crossed my mind, you know, as I get older and just my priorities shift. It's kind of like things I think about, but I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell.
You gotta get on that teaching and teach everybody what you do, you know.
I know.
You're kind of bringing up the young crowd, so you know when you guys are done stacking, there's other ones taking your place.
I mean, I have all these ideas and it's just, you guys know, I mean, everyone knows how it is. It's like there's some people who are just really good at making stuff and like just doing it. Like they get an idea and they do it, and there's other people, like I'm kind of a perfectionist in a way, and like I'm never satisfied with a video or something like when I post it. And sometimes that gets in the way of me actually finishing it, because I'm like this doesn't look as nice as it could be. Like, because I work in movies and stuff, like if a video it doesn't have a quality production and like the sound sucks or like it just looks bad, I won't post it, even though like
but you know what, dude?
It's better to just get it out there and it'll improve over time.
As long as the color is on, that's all you gotta worry about.
Yeah, I mean, I need to not let the perfectionist get in the way, because like I just put the content out there, and if it's interesting, like if the content's good enough, then I can worry about the production value later. And that's kind of where I've gotten to with some of these ideas that I have, because they've been stewing in my mind for a long time, and it's just like, okay, it's time to get them out and just film something, even if it's not with the best camera or the best lighting or the best microphone or whatever. Just do it, and over time I'll fix those things and they'll improve. I mean, just like it's even when it comes to just posting a still photo or something on Instagram. Sometimes I'll take it and I'm like, I don't like the lighting on that, I'm not going to post it. And then like until I get it right, like I won't. And then there's other times I'm like, I don't care what this looks like, let's just put it up there, whatever. Like it'll just go down in the feed, no one will see it, like who cares? So
I mean, if you go back, dude, and look at our videos and look at the progression of our videos, like
it's
my videos too.
It's iterative. And it's funny. So Jackson's dropping some good pearls of wisdom here. Time doesn't tell, you tell time, and perfection is the greatest killer of creativity. And it's funny because Jackson's one of those guys who literally pulled the trigger, said F it, and took a chance, and he's done great for himself with it, about something he was passionate about. And it's true though. You know what? I'm the same way. Like Steve and I literally sit down all the time and like just ideate over stuff. And then it's like, all right, cool. Got a list of 50 ideas, and it's been like 2 months, and now what? And it's just like, you got to you got to light that fire, and you got to be willing to say perfection is not, and like you even said when you were originally building, you learned from the mistakes you made. If you had been building perfect, you would have knocked out the 40-foot tower your first time ever. You would have knocked out a 100-foot tower. But like letting that realization that you're gonna make a mistake is, and it's normal. Like you gotta roll with it. Like, because you do amazing stuff.
If you don't put it out there, if you don't put it out there, you're already lost.
Yeah, exactly. The rational me knows that. And that's kind of like, so really right now, the only thing holding me back is I need to get my damn cards out of my office. So when I get my cards, I can actually card. Like I literally don't have
We'll break in with you, and we'll go
cards
through
in my
cards.
apartment that is good for card stacking. I don't have anything here that's good for card stacking. So, I mean, I could definitely try making the videos by themselves or by myself without a production assistant or somebody to hold a camera. I'm gonna have to do everything with a lockdown tripod, all that stuff, and like the right angles, and then do it again from a different angle, because I really want to get those close-ups and like the detail that I'm talking about. And so like that part, doing card stacking, which requires two hands, and filming simultaneously is really hard, but I'm just going to do it. But I'm definitely not going to put another obstacle my way by trying to do it with bicycle cards. I'm going to wait until I get my card stacking cards. So
what Jackson said, actually, which is definitely a good idea, is make yourself a 24-hour project.
Yeah,
and like a perfect example, Jackson was on our 24-hour show.
Right. No, I watched. Yeah. So I'm designing.
After that, he ended up doing like his show he does now, which is Dawn's Early Light. He wakes up at 5 every morning and literally draws for people for 4 hours, and he's banging out, like this Wizard of Oz deck that he's, obviously creating. But it's definitely something that, normally he would be doing it by himself anyway, right? But he's just offering something to people who want to watch, who are interested. So, if you do something on camera and you get 2 people to watch it, or even 1 person to watch it, maybe that's what you'll get for the first week. Maybe after that, you'll get 3 people.
I mean, I'm certainly not doing it for, to track. Like, I'm not going to even like care about views really. Like it's more for myself. And once I get started,
you'll care.
I will. I mean, I'll care, but I mean, like once I get started, like, once I get in the groove, it's just start doing something. And I appreciate, by the way, all the people. I love all the inspirational
a lot of people
words
chiming
and comments. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
It's good. It's good advice, and you're right. Like I'm just in my own head right now. It's okay. It's okay. We're talking.
Dude, that's totally understandable. Like trust me, I'm like someone who understands, especially over the past 10 months or almost a year now, actually. March will be a year where we're in this funk, right? And things are so different. And, you know, we can't go into our job to get the cards, which is something that you love, that brings you happiness, brings you that solace, you know? So it's like, you know, I totally get it. You know, how we get out of that funk and how we move past it is different for everybody, you know? And I think doing stuff where we're interacting with other people and hearing them, what they do, and, you know, that's all inspiring and helps us all.
You know what? And actually an interesting thing about it too, you know, you talk about making these videos and being in film and wanting them to be perfect. I think, you know, Jackson has a very good point. Don't give yourself another option. They want to know about the story. People want to see you in the story, and that's what they care about more than anything else. An alternative to even making a video and doing it, I mean, I think an alternative to making a video that you upload is maybe doing a multi-camera thing or something where it's a single fixed angle camera where your angle isn't always perfect, but do it live where people can interact. And, you know, maybe you have a friend come over and sit there and read out questions to you from the chat or something like that. Because you know what? You're never going to have a perfect quality live video.
Yeah.
Things are always going to go wrong.
And I will say from experience though, I mean, until you get to the good part, like every project goes through an ugly duckling phase where like it doesn't look like anything, and it's just like people. So when people usually tune into a live broadcast like that, it's usually the beginning, and they're like, "Why the hell am I watching this guy like build cards?" Like, and it can be interesting, but it's like only if you have literally like 12 hours to watch paint dry. Right. And I've tried it before, and I mean, again, I just turned on a camera while I was building, and some people tuned in and checked it out, and then, but it was kind of like, you know, I was like, I don't know, like if that was worth anything, but it was kind of fun. It also, again, because I knew people were watching, it put pressure on me not to like keep stopping. And like, a lot of times I'll just stop and like, look at what I'm building and then like drink a cup of coffee and just like, I don't know, should I do this? Like thinking about what I'm going to do or like whether I like what I've done already. So yeah, it's cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Well, I think, and I think, like you said, though, too, you know, from the time point of view, I think there's this weird fascination that people get on YouTube sometimes when they go on YouTube and they see a live and they see the time like running is like 19 hours. And they're like, I don't even know what this is about. And I don't even care. But 19 hours, I got to check this out. And like, even that would probably get you people coming in, and they'd be, and you know what, maybe 90% of them would be like, fuck is this? I'm out of here. But those 10% would be so fascinated. They'd probably sit there for another 4 hours and just be like, this is amazing. Like,
and there are people that watch this stuff. Like, isn't there that guy that like just sits there in a corner of his room and smiles at the camera for like 5 hours at a time?
Well, there's a lot of those people.
That to me, that sounds like the creepiest thing in the world.
he gets paid, you know, he's to the point where he's got enough subscribers and views that he's like making like good money off of this. He literally just goes, sits in the room with just sits there and just goes.
The fact that people watch him just
for like 5 hours straight,
dude, it disturbs me. The fact that people watch that disturbs me.
You know what though?
Like sitting and smiling.
And maybe it's one of those things where sometimes people just need a smile. They don't care where they get it, and they're having a bad day, and that cheers them. I don't know. To me, if like, see, when you say like sitting and smiling for 5 hours, I imagine someone doing like a Joker style smile from like Batman. So it's like a really like scary serial killer smile, or like Jack Nicholas popping through the door. Nicholson, there we go. Golfing. I always do this. Jack Nicholson.
And you're making fun of me. And you're making fun of me about freaking.
I know there's no playing cards in. Oh man, but yeah. Listen, I grew up in a house where we watched golf too, so like I always get them confused. It's been a perpetual issue. So I try not to say the names. I was just gonna be like, yeah, that dude from The Shining, but I figured I'd get called out on that too. So, oh my god. But yeah, I think, you know, just being it by no means does it sound like you aren't willing to put yourself out there. You clearly do. You have the talent. The chat shows that alone. The binder of the stuff you've done, the creativity there is absolutely amazing. Might as once you have it there, don't always be like thinking about like, oh, once you get the cards, don't make up another thing like, oh, I need this too. Like, just fucking do it.
Yeah. Just like Jackson just said, you know, you could just set an hour time. Doesn't matter if you finish it.
Yeah.
Just get online. Yeah. Like stop building. You can even stop after an hour and answer questions if anybody's on there, you know, and then just build more, build again. You know, it's
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
something that people would like.
uh,
It's the process.
I was
Yeah.
looking back at my Instagram, my early Instagram, like I scrolled way back to when I first started. And like, there were times where I was staying after work just for like an hour or an hour and a half or something. And I would just build something free form, just a couple little buildings or structures or like towers. And just to like, and those were probably like my most creative days. Like I was coming up with like new techniques for like roofing a building or like trying new ways to like suspend cards out like over nothing, like into no support, kind of like a top heavy building almost, or things like that. So like I was looking back at that the other day and I was like, man, like, yeah, like something like that, even where I'm just challenging myself to just freeform build for an hour or 2 hours and just kind of create. Like it definitely is. It's inspiring to me because then I go, oh wow, there was all these new ideas that I didn't even know I had in there. And then other people can see stuff too. I remember just looking at other people, or some of Brian Berg's like projects, and just seeing like there's like the big building, and then there's like this one little thing in the background where I'm like, like can I see that one a little like is there a better angle? Like and then I start looking like through crowd, like trying to find some like person who happened to walk by that project and took a picture of it and put it on Instagram on their own account that was like from a different angle or something, like just trying to do all this detective work because I was really intrigued by like a particular technique or something.
That's cool.
So yeah, I mean, like getting back to that creativity, that would definitely something like that, or just do anything. Like, you guys are right, just do something because it's really that's once you start, it becomes contagious. And
dude, even kirigamis, dude, people would love to watch how I would love to watch.
If you did that live, and like you said, if it takes you, that's something you could do with a limited time frame. So it's not like
something. There, and with so many designs, that's actually something I definitely plan on doing because it's one of the number one things I'm asked is like, can you teach me how to do this? And it's like some of it I don't want to teach because like there is a certain aspect, and I'm going to explain this and like kind of and the way I'm planning all these things is sort of like make these basic videos that are like the introductory basics, like even for card stacking. It's like, you need to know these things. And then these are the terms I'm going to use. And then like, I'll always link to that for my like more advanced videos. So like people can go and watch that if they have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. The same thing with the kirigami. It's like, I can go through one of these designs a week. Like I can just do a thing and record it and be explaining like what's unique about that design and also how to make it, cut it and fold it and say, okay, like this one's different because of this. And like, I can explain all those intricacies of what's different between a geometrically rotational design, like I say, or the one-way topological or the topologically impossible ones. People can really understand those distinctions because I'll be showing them like this is what I'm talking about when I say that.
Here's the question: when are you going to start?
When I get my cards.
No, but you don't need your cards.
I could totally do the kirigami now.
So when are you going to do it?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
No,
I'm not committing.
You can't say I don't know.
I'm not committing.
You can't say I don't know. You just gotta.
I mean, I want to say as soon as possible, but like obviously, I literally have like a crazy day tomorrow, so I can't start this week. Like I can't, but I need to, and I get something out of scheduling once a week. Like that's why I was doing that mystery box Monday thing. Like, that was a great creative thing too. I forced myself every Monday for a year. And then guess what? At the end of the year, I was so used to doing it that I just kept doing it. Instead of doing the red deck, I just went to the black mystery box deck and did the black mystery box deck, 1 card per day, every week for a year, 52 weeks. It worked out perfectly. I got to the end of the year and I had another 52 designs. Dude, so it's like
Jackson wants to know if you need cards.
No, I always need cards, but I need my cards for card stacking. For kirigami, no. But if you want me to cut your card, like cut some stuff, use your cards in kirigami. People have definitely done that to me. Sent me some of their decks and said like, make something with this. And sometimes like the name of the deck or whatever inspires me to use it in unique ways. I definitely have done.
Jackson's decks are pretty ornate though too, so they might be a little.
I've seen some of his stuff. Like I mean, he's got all sorts of like really cool.
He actually had a really good idea earlier about scratching on foiled cards, where if you had like a paint, like a layer on top of the foil to scratch through, so instead of the white coming through, that foil would come through as the underlayer. But
I've also thought, like, at some point, I don't know, I'd almost rather just send them pre-cut cards or something, but I've also thought about getting a deck printed where on the faces there's like the cut lines very faintly drawn, and then it's like each one of the deck you can turn into a kirigami card if you wanted to.
that's similar to
Like,
what they do for the card star too, right, Steve? Like it comes kind of pre-scored now.
Oh, wait, does it?
I think there's something like similar like that, like where it's a card puzzle or a card structure. I don't even know what to call it, where it comes a little pre-scored. I can't remember which one it is now, but that's not a bad idea at all.
Because I have it right here.
I also
I
want
mean,
to say,
again, I don't know who the hell would actually buy that. Like, if it was like, oh, you can make 52 unique kirigami cards with this deck, or you can just use it as a regular deck. You know,
people would love that.
Oh, you know what? It doesn't come pre-scored, but it comes with something for you to score it yourself.
Okay. Yeah, so like even some sort of that's actually something you could even think about too, like templates that you could make for the cutting process. Yeah.
So, but I mean, a lot of, by the way, I will mention a lot of templates for the mystery box cards and some, well, maybe not the kirigami cards, are up on my website for free download. Like people can just go and get the templates and try it themselves. So yeah, I mean, templates at least. Because people ask me all the time, and I do try to share that in the templates for how to make some of those 3D like slice form card things that I posted recently on my Instagram or up on my website too.
Nice.
Which I learned from YouTube videos or other places, and then just adapted it to playing cards. Or George Hart, who did one of those 12 card stars that the Art of Play also sells them pre-cut, so you can make that little kit. But yeah, I mean, like, all that stuff is like George Hart's website. I found that and I just was like, let me make that. And it's cool. And then people were like, oh, how did you make that? I'm like, go to his website and just follow the same tutorial I did. Like,
yeah, it's
cool. But
I mean, I think it will be awesome. You know, there's so many people in here that would be totally down to watch it.
Cool. Well then, great. Look forward to some new content soon from Card Stories.
And that's all later, you need.
Sooner than later, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later for sure. Because I think, you know, what's up, Mark? Thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate the support. You know, I think people really, I mean, the audience alone just saying how much they want to see something new. I think it's for the reason that you're so passionate about it. That alone tells a story better than someone who does it because it's cool, but they're not really that into it. You know, that comes through. You clearly love playing cards in so many forms. Yeah. It's really encouraging to see. And I think, you know, with the way the world has been, like Steve said, for the past 10 months, we've all kind of gotten into this interesting funk, but like, it's also given, I think, a lot of time for us to almost be retrospective and really look in as well, introspectively, and really figure out like, all right, like, you know, it sounds like this would enrich your life exponentially, even if you didn't necessarily, you know, like you said, it's not about the views. It's not about monetizing this necessarily. It's about getting it out there. And I think that probably going to be, if not now, very soon, a rewarding part of this process for you too, because like you said, you have a fear that people are going to lose this knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I've documented all the kirigami stuff and like tried to like dig into the history of that. Because like I had to dig, and I still don't even know the whole story about who invented what or whatever, but it's interesting to me. So anything I find, I try to like publish so that somebody can dig that up in the future and like use it. They don't have to go through that same effort that I did. And by the way, do you guys so I'm kind of proud of this. I used to be cardstackerscott.com was like my website because Cardstacker was taken. But now it's cardstories.co. And do you guys know why I adapted the name Card Stories? Like, do you guys get that it's like double meaning? Like I don't
the building stories and then the story of the actual Which no, and I thought that was really clever.
When I first came up with, I was trying to come up with an Instagram handle, and like I couldn't, like, I wanted to make it sure that it was just about all things cards. And yeah, so I was pretty proud of that because I like Card Stories. It's a dope name. I build with cards, but I'm also telling stories with cards. So
that is a super cool name. So there's two things. First thing is Jackson says he just wants to scan 54 of your cards and make a deck, which would be amazing.
Super dope.
Second is I am a big fan of people who love doing what they do and love sharing it. And I think there's a lot of people in every community, especially our community, who take advantage of people who do things for money, who don't care. you know,
Yeah.
and it's very rare when you have someone who is truly passionate about something that other people are truly passionate about as well. And I think it's important, and I think a lot of people would benefit from you sharing your passion because, like Tyler said, you love it, and it is something that you're very passionate about. And when somebody shares something they're passionate about, it changes lives, you know. So I think you just doing what you want to do and what you love to do will allow people, you know, insight into that, and it gives them a chance to have that as well, you know. So I think, you know, like Tyler said, it's really cool how passionate you are about it. That something like that doesn't come along all the time, you know. So I definitely think you as a person should share yourself more with all of us who would enjoy it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. Like, it's really gaining that momentum back because I did drop off that creativity suite for or spike for a while, and then it was just really hard to get back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I stopped for some personal reasons and stuff, but dealt with that, and I feel like I can get back to that. I just need to start. So okay, all right, I'm gonna start. Damn it, we're gonna start.
And
happen.
reach out to Jackson because he'll make a deck with you.
Yeah.
A
No, for
kirigami
sure.
deck would be dope.
Yeah, dude, that would be dope. That would be dope.
Yeah.
54 different ones.
Well, Jackson, you and I can talk offline. We'll talk about this stuff. We'll make some cool new things.
Heck yeah.
Inspire each other.
Dude, and that's what it's all about. I mean, you know, sometimes the creativity comes from not finding the things in the world around you that actually inspire you to create, you know, and like you said, you know, sometimes we go through things in life. C-Dub says, if you can grow that beard, you can do a channel.
C-Dub is on fire today. You see all the
He's had some good one-liners throughout, man. No
you see all
doubt.
the shit he was giving you, Tyler?
Yeah. Hey, that's fine. I'm here for it.
He's like Arnold Palmer knocking down the door in The Shining.
Hey, you never know.
So
I still couldn't tell you which one's the right one. Jack Nicholson is the actor, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Perfect. I won't remember tomorrow, but that's perfectly fine. But, you know, I mean, again, you know, sometimes it's not even about finding, I don't know. I have a hard time with creativity because I'm not necessarily a creative person. Like, I have creativity with things that I do get, you know, passionate about, but I'm not generally creative, I would say. I'm more of a like logic problem solver kind of person. But
He's
like,
the numbers guy.
yeah, I mean, I hate math, but I like math more than Steve likes math. So that's how that works.
He's the statistics guy. Let's just say that.
But like, no, but all things considered, like, you know, I think there are people who are just have a creative capability, and then those who can be creative when they're inspired to be. And, you know, the ones who have that more natural creative capability, you know, sometimes if you get into a rut, the act of trying to find inspiration actually prevents you from being inspired, you know, because you're almost focusing too much on it. And yeah, I mean, I have no doubt you're going to crush some stuff, man. Like, I'm excited to see it. I have no doubt everyone in this chat is excited to see it. So,
well, you know, everybody, if you look below, Scott's handle is there. His YouTube is his YouTube
and his website. Yeah, his YouTube's there. His website, his Instagram.
Go check it out.
Call me out. And
I also think there's a defunct Twitter. So yeah, I think I even threw. I'm very thorough in my social media searches for guests, so I think your defunct Twitter's in there as well.
Oh, dude, it's totally defunct. I don't know the last. I don't even understand what Twitter is. So like, no, the last time I went on there was like,
I think it was 2015, to be honest. And I saw it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna throw it on there anyway. You never know. I'm like,
Dude, you know what the cool thing is?
if you message me on Twitter, you might be waiting a really long time for a response.
No, dude, you know what you could do? You can literally go on like Facebook now, and it could send it out to Twitter,
everywhere.
and it send it out like literally.
Oh, really?
Spot, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Twitter scares me. I don't understand it. I mean, I use it to go like read like basically two things I use Twitter for: to get local updates to the minute about stuff that I hear around my apartment, because I know certain handles that are local, and I just look up like, what was that sound, or like whatever, or why is there a helicopter hovering over this thing? And then there's the other thing is also for a California thing. It's like whenever there's an earthquake, or I think I felt an earthquake, just go to Twitter and like instantaneously, it's just like earthquake, like thousands of people tweeting earthquake, and you're like, okay, there was an earthquake. We're good. Like,
see, that's the nice thing about being in a populous area. For me, when I'm like, what's that sound? I literally have to wait like 4 days for the news to publish a story, maybe. And sometimes it's like, oh, a car backfired or someone got shot. I'm not sure which. So,
or both.
Or both. Yeah. I mean, you never know around here. So
I just don't understand like replying on Twitter. So I don't ever send content. I just take content in. So
there you go.
Okay. That's all right.
I mean, it's funny because
the Instagram I understand. So you can use that.
Well, and like the whole idea of like retweeting has actually spawned a whole, like, I think generation of Instagram accounts that literally just repost. Like repost accounts were 100, you know, they probably started way before. It's probably like a MySpace thing or something, who knows. But I feel like Twitter has built a framework around reposting or retweeting in a way that like just works. And then every other platform tries to do it. And then you see these like repost accounts and like, oh my God, like I'll just go look at the person and follow their account. Like I'd much rather follow the artist and the original than whatever the Instagram account posting every different pie picture for the day or whatever it is. You can tell most of my things on Instagram are like food related or like oddly satisfying things. So it happens.
Yeah. Cards.
And you know what? Surprisingly, not a lot of cards. Even on the account where I post nothing but cards, if I go into the search thing right now, it's literally going to be cars, oddly satisfying videos where people are like slicing soap or whatever, and then like, yeah, it's like super.
Do you like those videos where like it's like things fitting perfectly into other things? Like, like there'll be like a can that's fits perfectly into like some random other cylinder, and you're like
those.
You're like, oh,
or like the ones where you have like I like the ones too where people like level off stuff, because like where it's like they fill it like a measuring cup with flour and then they like level it and it's perfectly level. But every once in a while, and I'll tell you, this is something that I think psychologically like messes with people, is every once in a while you find like an oddly satisfying video and it turns out to not be an oddly satisfying video, but it's people like playing on it. And so instead of like, making it level, they like scoop too low. Like,
people freak out. It was
my God.
You guys are freaking me out. That's like, seriously.
Steve's like, what's wrong with these people?
You guys are mental.
I'm gonna tell you, man, the internet's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, that's right. For all the bad stuff, there are so many things where I'm like, dear God, I love the internet. Like this is brilliant. Whoever did this, thank you. You made my day.
You know what the crazy thing is? So check this out. In my feed, right, like in the news feed area, all I see is fucking Rubik's cubes. And I'm like, out of all the things that are in our community, you know, the magic community where I don't fucking care about Rubik's cubes. Like, I don't want to see Rubik's cubes. I never look at Rubik's cubes. I don't care. But I see a ton of freaking Rubik's cubes.
And I can't help you there, man. Start looking up cars.
I don't want to see cars either because that's stupid too. Like, I don't
cars.
Like you can go in and like tell it, I don't like this.
Really?
You can train that little. Are you talking about like the search? Like when you go to the page with the magnifying glass and it like makes recommendations and it's always recommending.
Yeah.
Because for me, like they kept recommending like I don't even remember what it was. I was like, I'm gonna lose my mind if I see one more freaking video recommended to me of like this or that. And I just every time I saw it, I would just say no. I forget how you do it. I think you like press on it and. I had to look it up, but it's super annoying.
It's super frustrating. I don't understand. Like, doesn't make sense to me.
Oh yeah. So like, if you like long press on it, like it'll bring up this thing, and you can hit like not interested, and then it will supposedly, if you do that enough for the things you don't like, it will stop recommending those to you.
Oh,
supposedly. Cool. But then of course you'll like search it on Google accidentally, and then. Every social media page will give you ads and recommendations for that for the next 3 weeks until you buy something.
Yeah, so. that's why when I do it like a search on like random things, like if my girlfriend and I are talking about something and I need to look something up, I'll go into a private tab and look it up in there. Because man, I can't stand getting stuff that I don't care about. I'm glad I just don't have cats on my screen. That's all I care about.
Oh man, Steve, I'm gonna definitely start just dropping like weird, like I'm gonna keep misspelling things, and then like our chat's gonna be like Tabby, like stray cat, and you're gonna be like, what? And I'm gonna be like, no, I don't even worry about it. In like 3 weeks, it's gonna be like nothing but cats in your search.
Yeah, well, Mock, that's the problem. Mock just says the best thing about having multiple accounts helps you organize. That's not true.
Oh yeah,
that's not true either, because I have like 5 accounts and shit's getting like across other accounts. It's so weird.
And remember the days before they let you actually link like to I begged for this feature for ages.
When you had to like log in individually,
you had to log out and then log in to the next account. I was like, I'm ready to get a second phone so I don't have to do this crap. Like, I was like, what if people who are media managers for like a company, like if they're the Instagram manager for a company and they have a personal Instagram, do they not lose their minds every day? Like, so and it would drive me crazy because I have my Card Stories account, and then I have like a personal account, and I have like, I don't even know. I have another account for like other random stuff. But I post these pictures of like old TVs I see on the side of the street, like CRTs. Because it's astounding to me that there's still this many people that still are getting rid of CRT televisions in 2021.
I just got rid of mine 5 years ago. So not that close, not that recently, but not that long ago either. It was in my basement for so long. It was like 300 pounds. I was like, fucking
that's it. Like, just find them. I want to go out running and stuff around LA. Like, I mean, literally just on the same street. Every week I'll see one. I'm like, how? There's only so many apartments on this street. How are they still producing TVs? It doesn't make sense.
One person puts it out and a neighbor comes down and is like, ooh, free TV, and takes it.
Yeah. I mean, and I love CRTs. Like as a color guy, like there's a certain place in my heart for them. I mean, they were crap, but they were also really good at consistency and having an exact gamma 2.4. So I miss those days.
They're like 300 pounds.
They are 300 pounds.
They were 300 pounds, yeah.
Anything's
they were terrible. But
for each 10 inches you added to it, it was another 100 pounds, basically. So you wanted like a 60, like I remember those in like the projector, like the old school big screen projectors that like people would have in their house that were like 65 inches when we all thought that was huge.
Everybody had the Mitsubishi TVs.
Yeah, it either had the back projector or it had the front one. Like a movie theater where it would come out in the front and there'd be bright lights and like you're like, this is terrible. But back in the day, it was great. Oh man, I bet you no one thought they were going to get a tutorial though tonight on how to remove unwanted things from their Instagram feed.
Hey, you know, it's all things. It's cards and whatever we want to talk about.
Exactly.
So if you made it this far and haven't been bored to tears by card stacking and kirigami, then good on you. So.
Dude, if they were going to be bored by card stacking and kirigami, they wouldn't be in the room.
No, not at all. Not at all. We've cultivated a very good group of core subscribers here who like to come on and just hear us ramble about the most random shit. So it works out well. It works out nice.
Yeah, I think like hour 20 of your 24-hour got real dodgy there.
that was a bit of a tough one. I'm not gonna lie. Next year there's gonna have to be some like sleep training. Oh yeah, this year's the next one. I'm still thinking it's 2020, but it's gonna be it's gonna be an epic one. We have a lot more like crazy stuff already like in the works, but I don't know if it's all going to fit in 24 hours, and we're sure shit not doing a 36-hour one. So
Jackson, are we do it? You want to do it longer than 24 hours, Jackson?
Nope. Veto. 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 That would be brutal. But
that's good stuff.
If anyone has any last-minute questions, we can shoot those out in the chat real quick. Scott, I want to say though, man, we had an absolute blast talking with you tonight.
For sure.
And I have to say, like,
hey, I didn't know we were going to talk. Like, I'm glad we went this long. Like, I'm glad people are interested. So thanks for having me on and letting me talk, and people for listening and encouraging me too. So stay on me. If you don't see something new in like a little while, somebody message me and be like, yo, what's up?
What's a little while?
Give me at least until like
Friday after next. Okay, well, I was going to give you more time. Next Friday. It's on.
Perfect. Next Friday, we're going to hound you. Everybody, you heard that. Next Friday, we want to see something new.
And CW, you're welcome for your Instagram page now having soap in it. Everyone out there, go look up the soap cutting. Trust me.
I'm going to look it up as soon as we're done here. I'm totally looking up soap.
Just so everyone understands too, it's not just like people cutting a bar of soap. What they do is they pre-prepare this bar of soap by cutting they cut a grid into it. And then when they slice across it horizontally to cut the top layer off, it turns into like not even hundreds, it's probably 100 little mini cubes of soap, and they just like fall off satisfying. And sometimes they'll use like soaps that have like a solid color on the top, but like a clear on the bottom, like inside. So it's like different like colors to it. It's really cool. So yeah, this is
so much, Alex. That's huge.
Alex, we really do appreciate it, man. We try and find the most the real trick to who we try and pull for this show is we literally reach out to people who we think we would have a fun time talking to. And we're glad to hear that you guys enjoy it as well, because ultimately, we just try to find people who are interesting and who have a good story to tell. And Scott, you're definitely one of those people, man. And
Sure.
And I think one of the coolest things that I learned about you tonight is not only do you do amazing things, but you're super humble about it, man. And I think that really just goes to the fact that, again, you're so passionate about it. And I hope you do find that inspiration again to continue, because the stuff you do is amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Thanks.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We did get a question. What's your favorite card game?
Ooh, card game.
That's from Boy Mock.
I mean, I used to play a lot of Hearts as a kid. It was like very popular in my house. But I like my favorite game just to play, like, because it's super easy. You can play a bunch of hands of it, and like most people don't have an attention span longer than like a few minutes these days. It's probably like it's this game I learned. It's like a popular backpacking game and stuff. It's called Shed, or some people call it Shithead or something. Like if you look it up, it's. I don't know. I always called it Shed. I learned it as Shed, but like you're basically just trying to get rid of all the cards in your hand, and then you have these 3 cards that are face down at the very end, and like there's certain wild cards and stuff. It's really, really easy to learn, so you can always teach people it. And it's a great like bar game you can just play while you're sitting there talking to somebody. That's probably, I don't know, that's the one that's popping into my head right now. So
that's cool. Right on. What's your favorite card in a deck? It could be your favorite to cut. It could be your favorite like last card to put on your stack.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. Like like if I had to pick one that represented me or like that I liked, I don't know. I probably like the 4 clubs or something.
Nice.
I noticed
very symmetrical,
yeah.
And like I like the evenness of it, and I like the clubs. I like the black. I don't know. I'll say 4 clubs, but I will say my least favorite game is the 32,000 card pickup that you have to do after you knock down one of these card towers.
So that was one of my questions. One of my last. You said with the major structures, you basically like the cards are poop deck after that because just the pressure on.
Yeah, especially the ones that were down at the bottom. Like once it falls, like when there is failure, there will definitely be cards at the bottom that are bent and like you just throw away. There's a lot of cards that I do like just kind of collect and do try to stack back up into piles and keep and reuse. Maybe not for like a really important project, because I like to use newer cards if I'm doing a really good important project. But if it's just for like messing around, like I'll probably just reuse cards, as long as they're not super warped or stressed. And like at the bottom of that 20-foot tower that I built, like when that thing came down on me, it was super satisfying. But like there was literally a crater at the base, right in the center, like where it was, because all the cards came down and then kind of went out.
Cool.
And it's 10 years later. We've cleaned that studio like multiple times. We've moved stuff out completely, repainted it, done all this stuff. We still find playing cards in random places.
That's awesome.
in my work. That soundstage is at work, and like we'll be like suddenly I was just like, yep, just found a king of clubs, or like what? Like it's so funny. It's like 10 years later, we're still finding cards in random places. So yeah, it takes a while to clean up too, especially by myself. I usually just try to like just push them all together into a giant pile and just grab huge clumps of them and just try to tap them on the table, until they square up. And then when anything
how long does it take you to put together 32,000? I mean, like
that's gonna
take hours.
Pain in the ass.
But the funny thing is like the projects I do now, like when I build stuff for clients, like the one in Spain, I took all these cards with me overseas, and then when I knocked down, they were like, okay, well, do you want these back? I'm like, hell no, man, you can clean that. Like, I'm not cleaning that up. I just left them there. Let their production crew clean it up. And then I was like, just throw them away. And or like a lot of times, sometimes I'll like give like it's always fun to throw them at the camera. It looks really cool when all the cards are scattering through the air. and you can give some to people, like if kids want to take them or something. If there are kids present, like you can just be like, yeah, take them home, whatever.
Take
as many as
them
you can
home
carry.
and practice themselves.
Yeah. I mean, all you need is a few decks to get started, and you can build like a pretty decent sized tower with just like one deck of cards. And if you have more than one, you can definitely go to, you know, I don't know. I haven't done it in a while. I need to. We'll start with that in our first video.
You know what else you need other than decks of cards? Good instruction.
Yeah, there you go. Or a lot of trial and error and patience. I mean, I think it's amazing to see where you've gotten based on watching video.
It's a big, like, I mean, you can't underestimate the mental aspect of what card stacking is too. I mean, it's certainly physical. Building these structures requires like core abdominal strength. Like if I went and card stack now, I would probably be like, dude, I'm old. Like I can't do this anymore. Like when I was like 20 and spry and like limber, like I could do this like all day. And like now I'm like, oh man, my back hurts just thinking about it. Like it's so much more important to me now to like build on a platform so that I'm not building off the ground. And like, there's all these things that I factor in now because like it literally just hurts. Like if I have to kneel on a concrete floor, it kills me.
Yeah. You have to take some lessons from the aquarium landscape builders, like the epic ones. They have platforms, they have teams that do it. Like all the heavy lifting stuff is like the workers, and they're the ones that are in the tanks, the big 35-foot tanks designing. Great landscape.
I mean, there's probably a lot I could learn from a couple different fields and stuff with the physical aspects, and then with like the mental, it's just it's all about just having that patience. Like that's the number one thing you can't teach somebody, but you can only just tell them over and over again. It's like when people say you just got to practice. Well, with card stacking, it's you got to practice patience, patience, because you are going to fail a bazillion times until you have that like moment of like, I can do, like, I get this. Like there was so many times where I was like, I'm done with card stacking. Like I'm never going to be able to get this, like all those things. And then there was like, I don't know, a period where I just like, it suddenly seemed so easy to me. And all the things that were like, that seemed so hard and difficult to get to work, right? Like suddenly just started clicking. And then I could really just start taking it, literally to the next level. And that was the important part. So it's mental. Awesome. So if anyone goes out and tries this, if you don't have the mental fortitude, you're going to need that to be able to push through and stick with it. But it's worth it. I mean, if you like creating and it does make some really beautiful stuff that super satisfying when you finish a project and step back and go, I made that. Like that's really cool.
Nice. Nice. Cool.
Dude, again, thank you so much, Scott, for coming on. Guys, we're going to put links down below to everything we talked about tonight, whether it be the book that Scott mentioned, Emmanuel Jose. I have a whole bunch of links up here. I'm going to drop down below the video from the Vegas intro because you should all go check that out.
I'll link to the Jack Nicholson movie, The Shining.
I mean, listen, you know what? Yes, I will find it. I'm just going to go do one of those deep fakes now and replace all of his face throughout The Shining with Jack Nicholson, and we'll see how that goes. But again, no, thank you so much, man. It was actually an absolute pleasure to have you on and just talk. I wasn't expecting us to talk so much about cards, but it was absolutely fascinating. Like, I really do love that you're so passionate about it, and I can't wait to see what you come out with next, man.
Next Friday.
Cool.
Next Friday. We're going to hold you to that.
Next Friday.
All right. Make sure to stick around. We are going to do a quick word from our sponsor here. Then we're going to be announcing next week's guests. So stay on for a quick minute and check it out. Exciting things are coming from marvelousdecks.com. Make sure to check out the site, guys, for sure. And next week's guest, we are going to have Sonia Benito on. Sonia was actually on our 24-hour live. Absolutely amazing time chatting with her on that show. And we can't wait to sit down and just really spend a couple hours with her. It's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern time, so it's a little bit earlier than usual. She is in the UK, so we're going to switch up the time a little bit. But keep an eye out on the Instagram account if you're not following. We will be dropping that all throughout the week, making sure to remind you guys that it is 6 p.m. And again, thank you everyone who came out tonight. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate you all. It was a blast.
Thank you very much, Scott. You're amazing. We look forward to seeing what is coming in the future from you. And yeah, thank you very much. And thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thanks everyone.
Okay, no doubt. Have a good night, everyone.